telling, let's keep it to a minimum. If you agree with what somebody else has said, let's keep moving, because we've got probably 5 meat topics to get through. If I seem to be rude in cutting people off or moving it ahead, I apologize now, but we're going to do it because we need to get through this and get some kind of idea of what we're doing here, okay? So listen, I don't know if anybody read these or did a survey, so we'll start off with the first item, and that's the administrative end of this, since that's the simplest thing. This is, in our opinion, or my opinion, I guess, and maybe some of the guys I talk to, become a real, with soccer, activity involved, but a lot of the stuff that where we're running into problems, or at least where we're miscommunicating, where we're having issues with forfeits, guys not showing up for matches, us having information as far as dust-ups at the is clerical. In other words, the better we interface with God Soccer, all of us, the better information we have, the faster we can get back to people. So 2 of the proposals on there. One is to take, the board is amorphous. When you read our bylaws, we've got people appointed, we've got people that supposed to be on it, we got people that are elected that don't show up, so we got to appoint somebody. Proposing here is to make it clean. We have a referee liaison that's on the board but not elected. We stand for referees. It has been this year and last year, the liaison has no time or can't get involved with the day-to-day activities of the refs. That is, they're not showing up. We've got to get information from them. We've got to get more information from them. Volunteer to do that and stick them in the middle of that communication doesn't work, because it might be 3 weeks before we get information back. So that we've got 3 people on the board right now who are master referees. The lack of information we have, the one is the FSR director of referees, and we have 2 other guys who we consider to be master referees. One on the board is just another thing, another person to have on the board. It just makes it bigger, more wieldy. To me, I think we have 6 elected positions. We have 1 former president, and we have 2 appointees. People, that's plenty. Because the board here should be just getting to the final decisions about things that have happened or things that we want to do. So the first idea is to get rid of the ref liaison. Not that referees aren't important; they're vital. In fact, they're probably one of our issues. It's just to get less of these positions off the board that really don't need to. If we have members right now, and we'll always have members who are master referees, they get lost on the board. If we need to interface with the Referees Association, we need people to do that. We don't need a standing board member that we yearly appoint, because that's just another guy that doesn't show up to meetings and another number that we got to make the quorum. Second thing is we've proposed, or I've proposed, I don't know if it's we, that this administrative thing in the next step, we're going to hire, or a paid position to make a VP of admin, not the board, separate, who is only responsible for all clerical activities we have, and that's everything we do. It's all the interface with Got Soccer, which is right now overwhelming. Now, Got Soccer allows us to have a lot of information at our hands. Carl and I were just discussing something, and we both have different impressions about something, but continually we're making decisions based on assumptions, and we're making decisions based on what we think. Will have so much back. It holds it, and you can keep going back through them. And if people have had problems before, and if all the things that we're saying are true or not, will show up there. But we've got to have some overriding, overall person who is not on the board, who is not involved in any adjudication decisions, that runs things and is responsible 100%. And this for reading this. the web, and also for to give us a central figure who's responsible for all of that. Involved in that, we still have an administrative aide. It seems like we're administration heavy in that regard. That's designed. The idea is to have a person, at least for a year or two, to use some of our money, which we've got, to push into the clubs and give every club the opportunity of having like an ombudsman, a clerical ombudsman inside of that club, or at least available to that club, to the coaches who are the ones putting the stuff in Got Soccer and not getting it back, having games that they don't know where they are, they're in forfeits, or forcing teams to schedule things they didn't know. Not a huge problem. And if we take the position and push that in there, we think we can really solidify everybody's as far as Got Soccer. So we eliminate a lot of the burrs that we got right now and keep it smooth. We want, look, you want to show up at a field, you want a team there, you'd like to have a ref and somebody there as a marshal or whatever from the club, at least overseeing the play. So you can come, have him, and leave without getting in a fight, without arguing with somebody, or without anybody talking about pulling guns or anything else. That we have this organized and there's no excuses. And so administratively, what the idea is to streamline this thing. This is why we're going to vote next month. And that's basically, when you look on that, there are 4 or 5 things, and they really have to do with this much more streamlined, because in the future, it's going to be much more easy or it's going to be easier to plug in games, to schedule, to reschedule, and let that, and have it proceed as it should. We're doing pretty well now. The problem we have is that we've got a board member who is extremely good at this. That's going to be a board member who's going to do that may not feel like they want to be working 2,000 hours or 2,000 hours a year in soccer. In fact, they might not even be capable of it. So you see the secretary and treasurer's duties were also redrawn. Make them supervisory, because essentially all of this information is being organized and by someone doing this full time that is not a full-time employee. And we've got to separate the two of them as we're going forward, because otherwise we're going to be so well in about 2 years or 3. Whenever the changes, we need it at that point to step off and have an established clerical back in terms of the dollars in there. Questions about that? That's the administrative part. That's probably 3 or 4 or 5 of the things that are on what I handed out. Also, I think has got in our bylaws meetings, right? Something we should do once a year if we have to. It's a week for all us Christians in the room. I mean, this is an imposition on our family time to do. We enforce people to drive 50 miles to sit for a half hour and listen to this. It's insulting. And it took us this long to figure out that we don't need to do it. This is 2014. Our tremendous amount of alternatives on the web. We've just tuned into them. So part of it is going to say, from now on, you don't have to come to the meeting, but you're going on. We got to make some way that you at least are listening to this or tuning into this. But the meeting, getting everybody, we've got hundreds of miles driven, and for no reason other than in our bylaws. So we're trying to get rid of that also. Into this thing, have you used it? Has anybody used it out there, or do you have any comments about it? Yeah, guys. Clean up. We've done agreement on whether we should film these things. My contention was, radio listeners are starting to disappear. Where people are used to seeing an image also along with the audio. Is everyone so you guys, have you had trouble accessing it? Have you had trouble listening to it? Yeah, Joe.
From time to time I have a little trouble, but I think
In your case, it is.
In weekends with somebody, it's working great. I mean, this is one of the people that are out there listening to the webinar.
So we've got 10, 12, 15 people here. Has anybody got a format? Move. To me, better. I think you communicating with us during the meeting might be a little bit more difficult, but we'll figure that out. If we get this VP of Administration, they'll figure that out, and we'll get it and smoother. Eventually, you'd like even to have some of these meetings with us somehow, remote. Yeah, Joe.
I just made that one time log in. Do I see you? I'm just always hoping that
communicate with if I, as a chat,
I should be asked.
this is here. See, that's what this is on the screen. These are the people that are here. Okay.
In system, if we're missing it, maybe we'll have it. We'll figure out rules and regs, but we'll improve it. We'll improve it. And we don't eliminate people from voting at the end of the year, so now we got more consensus as we're coming in, and the clubs that are participating with us also have a say-so in what we're going to do. Not on that. We done. We need to cover on the administrative changes, and changes in the format of the meetings. What else did you have, Linda? What other?
We have a lot of rule changes that we
just the ones to do with administrative changes first.
have any. I don't think it's
Well, attendance, right?
yeah, that's one that we put in the
right.
Down on the website.
Well, let's kill that topic. Next, how about the GAMA rules? We have an issue with that. If you're in the bylaws, 4 pages, and I'll tell you, some of them, I mean, I'm not that bright, but I can't figure them out myself. It seems like people either seen where there was places to use liberally than others, and that gave them some advantage. I don't know. This thing is tough because it's playing up if you're moving to try and get up to the next division, and you're at a disadvantage because you're not using guest players all the time, and you're not moving players in and out. Fair. It's not as fair. The side of that is whoever shows up that day plays soccer. If they're not overage or professional players, they're just there to play that day. And instead of killing ourselves trying to figure out what kids are, I mean, we had all kinds, not all kinds, we had issues this year with kids just walking on a field and not even, pretending they were somebody else. Now, but it was a serendipity that we found it. But by and large, I don't see that's institution is a huge problem. Do any of you think that you're playing against people that you shouldn't be? Anybody? In other words, no one views that as a big problem. Otherwise, the guest player, do we make it 4? Do we eliminate it and eliminate it? We've gone back and forth on this whole card, what you have to have when you show up at the fields. What happened to a referee? What happened there, and the referee getting it back to our central reporting thing. And I don't even that much, but we've got 2 or 3 people here that are real good at it. There are issues that we're not getting. Well, what was the percentage, Linda?
We get 20% of the game cards from the referee. We need 100% of them because when there's a eligibility challenge and we don't have the game card, we have a verifying who was at that game. So and you'll see in one of the rule changes in here, that referees be required to submit the game cards USA. And the part to that is that we're going to want to use clubs, so the players automatically show up on the roster. You don't write them in by hand, they're going to be on the roster. When you get a game card on Thursday for Saturday's game, you're going to see your opponent's guest players because they're going to be on the game card. The game card turned in because the player is sitting out a suspension or something, we need that from the referee. And the Referee Association will support our requirement for them to turn in the game card. To do it, the Referee Association will report us in that, and we'll make them do it. So it's important to put it in the rules. If it's not in our rules, the SR is not going to come down on referees who don't.
The club pass idea, though, this is one of the big changes that we did a survey, and overwhelmingly it came back, you didn't change the terminology of guest player to club pass. I don't understand.
No, they did want to change.
Well, it says I do support.
I do support, yeah, I do.
Does everyone understand what that means as far as your club and the play? Would you that club pass idea?
All club pass means is that the player that is on your roster is a club pass player who was rostered to another team in the same club. This is youth terminology. That's all. Vacant players is somebody who was from another club. They're considering it club pass because when you go to the cup, anybody within your club is not considered a previously rostered player. So this is all based on what's coming down from USU. The way soccer's set up is what FYSA is recognizing. If they're in the same club, they're not considering them guest players. They're considering them club pass. So we're going along with what's going above us. FYSA, USU, it's reflected in soccer. And it's a checkbox for us to club pass in soccer because we didn't have club pass. We didn't have it checked. So you club pass players on because we didn't get it on and now they're going to start appearing on the roster. A registrar has to do it, or whoever the club gives permission to. I mean, it's a club decision to who gets to do the rostering. But now, your registrar or somebody in your club makes those decisions. You say, club does it. But it's put on the roster for the game, it's going to go to the opponent. So any more surprise guest players to deal with, well, did they play or not play, and all the rest of the stuff that went along with it, because it's listed on the roster, and the rest is going to be required to only allow those participants on the roster to play. I don't saying by Thursday. I'm just saying you could. Yeah, you pull your roster.
If the registrar generates that roster,
The registrar is not.
Once you change the guest player, I'm trying to figure, once you change the guest player on there, on the player's pass, don't you have to generate
No.
a roster on that one?
No. Put the player on as a club pass player. You go in and you pull the it's effectively just adjusting the game card for that day.
You're saying the topic automatically to come on there without having generated anything?
Yeah, and then when you pull your game card, it'll be on there. We may want to put that players must be listed by later than Thursday. USA has any rules regarding transfers, and they actually had a player transfer this year 10 minutes before game time. That would be eligible because they would have had 4 guest players. So 10 minutes before game time, which was after the team was shipped in, player was transferred. In other words, coach called the registrar transferred the player, so he was now legal.
But just so you understand, in most cases, these guys are not. I mean, it's not Pele. They're putting on a roster. A lot of times, it's just a body. You don't see that the kids in general are not game changers. So there's nothing untoward happening that people are manipulating the system. If we find that, we can go back just for it was originally we stopped this because of the different leagues having different rules, so that you could put your one team in USA, your other team in one of the 20 leagues available, and slide them back to USA to enhance the USA team, when in point of fact they weren't on that team. The fact of the matter is they're on that team for that day, and whether they're going to be considered as with 3 teams that you're wheeling players for, is that our job to say, hey, you can't do that? Fair, and that's what I'm saying. Some of the smaller clubs or clubs that are organized differently may have a problem with that, because they can use players more liberally to sprinkle into the play. But if they're in their club and available, let them until this becomes a large problem. It may, but right now nobody here seems to think that more guest players or any guest players has really changed the course of a season for somebody. So figure out how to use this to advantage. Out of 500 teams, some guy's going to do that. But I mean, we're not going to damp out. What is the end purpose of this? To guarantee fair, balanced play. If it upset that, then we're bending over. We're trying to find all these kids. If there's no real competitive advantage, and if it's not, some of these things, it's much easier for us to figure out who's going to play that day, rather than having kids show up and the ref telling you, if the ref intelligent. Another problem we have is the refs half the time don't check the roster. Eliminated the fee for having if you're coaching, you say, wait a minute, there's a guy over there with a family and a mustache, and he's at least 23 years old, I want to check him. That you don't have to post a fee. That they'll, at that point you can complain or whatever it is, put something in. So that's still there. In other words, if you feel that you're really being abused in some way, shape, or form, that you can still, without paying a fee, ask and say, hey, what's going on here? I mean, let's face it, we're obviously, for the answers we got today, this is not viewed as a great problem for anybody at this point in time. Figure out how to liberalize these rules. And one other thing, after we get through this election, the rules and regulations can be changed anytime during the year, as long as we post them and have it come up in a meeting and we post it ahead of time. We can back into that. Amendments, no. Regulations, yes. So if we're finding something that's really not working for us, there's the ability to change it. You don't want to do that during the year, but the things you can. I know we clubbed at 3 or 4 games that had 4 players, and then look back and they'd been doing it all year. Now they didn't be doing particularly well. It wasn't that they were schmuntzing everybody. It's that they were short players and they were shifting them around getting to play. Well, that's an advantage, because at least when you show up, they got enough kids to play the game. If they're just bodies, but these kids aren't there. Players coming in, or it didn't seem to be. And you can look at these things and almost figure out what's going on. It's not, it ain't that hard to figure out. So if people abusing the system, then we can go back and adjust it. But right now, we need to lighten up a bit and figure out how to do this more easily. Because, I don't see the point of us changing, like if they're not available Thursday night, which is going to be at least half the people in this room. That happens. The writing in part seemed to be fine, and you could write a kid's name in, but on the other hand, have a registrar that's available on Thursday or Friday night. They may have been in a car accident, or they may be out of the country, or they may be, answering their phone. Not that they shouldn't. So there's certain restrictions on this. If you're going to get them into the system, then some kid doesn't get to play, and that's going to be the other side of this.
You're just going to implement what
Yeah.
We want Club Pass. Now, I mean, this
Yeah.
is, okay, if you see this is our internal event thing. For the Club Pass for the registrar, in the club, or for the team. If this is either one of these, it's just a check mark for us. The direction. We can go Club Pass. I don't care which way. Pass puts the players listed on the roster, which to me is important because we don't need for coaches to wonder are the players that are playing roster or not. That's what happened last year. We got multiple emails regarding half a dozen teams that had the issues, but with many coaches in divisions of the same team. This improves because you would know if they were rostered to the team. But we need to decide registrar, the club, or does the team be allowed to put a player on his club pass?
It's not a vote. I mean, we're just trying to get the vote is going to be next month once the agenda to vote for. There's nothing we can do that you say, well, no one else let's put club passes in and everybody's fine with it, you know. So there's things we can do as a board that we, you know, theoretically, so that you know the board is comprised of its members, and its members got to at least tell us what's going on. So that's all we need to say, yeah, that's cool. So let's go ahead and do it, or not.
You guys all what this means. All restrictions of what players can or can play for a certain team would
Well, this team is.
you know, if you have if you play on a club pass, it doesn't matter anymore if this kid plays now for whatever the Region 3 Premier League or
We're changing the words club pass and guest player. We're not rid of the guest player rules. That's just going to be.
But it doesn't play anymore if we go on a club pass.
Yeah, it is. We still keep our rules unless you change the rules. This rule says we're changing the terminology from guest play to club pass. It isn't changing any of those rules. We're just changing the name.
But by definition, what's a club pass and what's a guest player? So by definition, what you stated earlier is anybody that is a member of that club.
But we can put any kind of restrictions on we want. I'm only saying change the terminology. Keep the guest play rules 100% the same and just take the word guest play out, club pass in. That's it.
Club players.
Yes.
How are you going to control whether if one player is going to play?
You can't do it now unless you look at it. I mean, the guest playing. No way.
There's no way
now, other than to go back in and say, wait a second, you know, what are you doing here? Or, you know, if someone questioned it or someone.
And that's the point I was up front, and you know, this is again that my small mind can understand. But the point was I was making all restrictions off. Nobody because right now we can't really check. And somebody is going to use it to their advantage. You can check, but I mean, if it's got to be specifically questioned, and that you got to go back into that history of that player. I don't know 3 of them or 2 of them this year out of thousands of players we have. So it's something right now that seems to be a big problem. Now we've had rules in place, and that may have stopped it. I don't know that.
We're not changing.
I wouldn't say it's a big problem. I would just say that it's happening, and on the other end. Have to accept it. I don't think the clubs like it. I don't think from my point of view, I have some coaches that are into that, where we don't really those teams.
Right.
Is what it is. And say, listen, those like to do that. We don't. You're going to play.
Right. Right now, it gets to be a big problem where it's making for uneven play. That's quickly enough.
Yeah. two, I mean, I'm sorry for my lady, I was over at State Cup in Auburndale, but, which is here? I know it sounds like we're not, but we are. Okay, I'm talking about the guest playing rule, which is what you're mentioning right now, and then this change, which is just simply terminology.
They're two different things.
It's saying instead of calling it a guest player now, we're calling it a club player, and that's the only thing. Now, the guest playing rule, yes,
Are those written in regards to club pass as well, or?
you're just changing the terminology from guest player to club player. It's the same process.
Yeah, we're just gonna change this to club pass, that's it, that's what we're talking
Now,
about.
player rule, that needs to be talked about in how you're
Yeah,
doing it.
that's the next step, but that is a logical next step in this, is to say, look, you come up with X amount of players, they play. If not over professionals or something else, that's who you're playing against today, because there might be a club that has a team in USA that's really got 9 permanent members. They started out with 14 and now they're down to 9. They're players every week to make sure they got 11 kids on the field.
Yeah, but I mean, I agree with the fact
Can I get an overview on all this?
Yes.
that we get to you.
In reality, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go
We're talking about is concept
problem with it.
into the guest play club pass, how we want to call it. Because in order to get promoted, if that is still respect, and yet we're going to take restrictions off, we have a problem.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Well, you're right. If it is a problem, we see that there can be a problem. We haven't changed that rule.
proposing that we take restrictions off.
We aren't.
No, he's saying that's.
We're not advocating that at all as an
The
organization.
club pass, that's where we're right at that line right now, and
Don't get
go back to the
confused.
promotion relegation. The counter argument to this, Fred, if that's what you're doing, if whoever it is doing that, then they've got to face next year. They've got to fill that club. I mean, what are they doing with that team then? It's a strategy that really is it may work for a team. Gave them a small thing. They're going to be promoted into a league that the 9 kids that are on that team aren't ready to play in. So really it's a self.
Yes and no,
Well,
because what happens is
they can fill in with better players.
using the league and the level of the league to sell themselves and use it.
Well, but look, if we want to get to that, maybe we will later on. Fred, we got a mix right now. We have a mix of businesses, have employees. I was one of the opponents to saying we got to sort that. It's too late. Pandora's box is open. We've got to learn to deal with the situation we have. Some of the clubs need to use whatever they can to merchandise because of business, and that can't change, Fred. The whole structure changes. Unfortunately, it's gonna. We've got businesses and we've got voluntary organizations and we got hybrids in the middle who a coach depends upon some modicum of success. They're really good, great trainers, communicating with all the people and giving them rational expectations. But that isn't part of a business. A business should build up a parent's expectations beyond what is possible. It's what you're to do, and that's a fact. We're not going back. So we go forward in this league with all of this disparate organizations and figure out how to do it. And that you hit it right, the nail on the head. That's exactly what will happen. Teams, it's not going to be the dominant thing. It's going to be a team here or there, and it may be unfortunate that some guys right next to you that are bidding on players and want to pull your players over, so they beat the dog crap out of you, and then say, well, at 9-1, why aren't you on our team? When in point of fact, 6 of those kids really aren't on that team. I got it, but we can't stop that happening anymore.
You can't stop it, but you can regulate it.
Well, yeah, but
based on what you guys challenge.
Right, what you're saying is the reason you want to do club passes stuff is because you do you can make because you really have that database.
It's more of just so we're consistent in our, in how we're describing it, so it doesn't get confused.
But the club pass is the start of stopping it. Yeah, but also it may open up to what Fred, and I'm not really in favor of, but I mean, we may have it. The next step, we're right at the point where the club pass moves to the next step is whoever you bring.
Keep it to the 3 players. We still keep it to you cannot play up to a division team if you're a first division player. Now, you know,
I don't have time to change that.
that comes back to you guys.
What do you think about guest player rules? I mean,
That's
well,
My question for Linda, I mean, it does sound good. It's a registrar. When the registrar has to check every player like that, manually, or just want to automatically when they make a switch?
Not a switch, it's just if coach, if you go, I've got a game on Saturday, I want Joey on my team, she goes in and clicks. Joey's on your team as a class player. Now, it's a decision.
Right.
Does the group want the registrar to do it? Do you want anybody with club access to do it? Or do you want to allow the teams to do it? This is something the system, if you registrar, then we say the registrar. Do you want anybody with club access? Club access.
Make one person accountable.
To this group.
So you put them on there for that one game.
or you put them on there and have them.
No, it's for that
Well, I
one
mean,
game.
you put them back on, but
You gotta put them back on.
But that's where hopefully also, if we've got more clerical help, we can, so we don't have problems when the referee arrives saying that kid can't play. That's what we don't want.
If it is on the roster, the kid will play.
Once again, I
Not past it, so there's no need to talk to it during past it. Yeah.
So it's been correct. Put the players to remove.
It's on there for the
one game.
It goes on game card, not on the
Official roster.
Okay. Card following time will not have these players in the following.
No, for whatever
Not like
game
she-
you.
But your
Now
coach
she
will have
adds it again.
But coach will have to get that game card after that, after the registrar does that. And see, it adds a little, you understand that?
Yeah.
So it's, now you show up and say, I'll write him in. Your coaches, you say you ain't doing that this year.
I some good and some bad in it, because personally, I don't see any problem when it's down and at the last minute they have a player that probably made it back into town.
Yeah, but Joe, you
Talking about
never,
this,
you never know what circumstances you're gonna deal with.
if we're talking about
Once you
eliminating.
open the door.
Right, now up another issue, if we're talking about eliminating the right ends as well, because
Yes, we are removing the right
if
end.
if that is the case, then yes, the only drawback is it'll be, hey, Joe and Bobby, come here, you gotta play today, and we'll write you in. You have to have a little pre-planning. It has to be a lot, but it has to be just a little pre-planning.
You know,
You get a game card printed
when we
out.
show up, people right now are
Could
gonna
be that
show
morning,
up.
could be an hour before,
The kids aren't
but
gonna be
you have to have
able
a little bit of pre-planning so that you can.
We already had a team here, African, player, 10 minutes before game time. So,
Print the card, you're fine.
Yeah.
Some guys do that.
I don't have any problem with that.
How about everybody else?
I'm
Fell next to you had a question. All right.
No.
We still have restrictions.
That doesn't regulate it. It never did. Never has to be self-regulated, and then if there's a question, you as a coach can bring it up to the board, and we can go back in and check.
And you now can do it without paying a fee to ask.
not only that, you're gonna see the name on the card, you go back and pull that game card.
We're gonna be there.
The name will still be there. It's not like you have to get a you have to write the
That's
kid's
the problem.
name down at game time, because we've had those issues where the coach would, and we couldn't get the game card from the ref, and where we know that this coach did, but.
Right. Write-in card, because that has to come from the referee.
And the
Whereas
referee.
we can pull this card up at any time.
And we'll see.
To some extent.
To some extent.
They still have to turn in.
Makes
the card.
data gathering
But as far as-
easier for us to grab that and not have to get in touch with a referee and say, get
We
it in
can pull the
here.
game card of the player at any time of the players that are already listed on there, but we can't get it with the ones that were written in at game time. And I'm saying.
The rules of play haven't changed at all, although
With the exception of is we're not allowing write-ins. It has to be on the game card.
but that opens the door to next is, it makes it much easier for them to play.
We're not allowing the write-in.
Doesn't kill the registrar, it won't work.
Not really.
Not really.
Not really. And once
They gotta do it. The change in secondary players, something again that has been an issue for years. I support removing the allowance for 14 and 15 players to be allowed in secondary status on a roster. A lot of people, secondary players in all these age groups, it was never designed for that. This thing was designed initially for kids who did not make the high school team, who were maybe or not even freshmen, who the ended for. So we're allowing them to basically go up to 15s or down from 15s to 14s. And play.
The way it got, and it's just a rule as it. I did that in my 14-15 team, and I brought it to Venice, I think, once, and they were like, "What is this S next to this player? Is this because they're suspended?" I'm like, "No, it's secondary."
We were allowing secondary players.
Right.
So
if you have a 15, like say they're on the 14, you put them on the U15 roster for this, and then you take them off and you put them on the U14, and if you have to cross over, you guys play them, and that's as simple.
Correct. There's going to be no secondary players for the whole year. You're just going to have
to be honest with you, most registers didn't even do it that way. Most registers didn't even know how to use the secondary status and did exactly the way I was.
We're going to get rid of it because we spent more time trying to figure out and arguing about it than it did any good. We can go right back to the club pass. They can play with the club pass. They just come down if you're engaged eligible.
If you need more guest players and you use their name as a guest player, then you can be on 15 one day, you can be on the 14 the next day, you can be back on the 15 the next day. That's the way God Soccer is set up. I don't recommend you keep flipping them. The only time you take a chance, or the only time you're going to put something in jeopardy, that is if your team is going to be a State Cup team. You're only allowed so many moves in God Soccer if you're a State Cup team. So that's the only thing I say you caution.
Previously rostered player has nothing to do with God Soccer.
Well, whatever that is,
Previously rostered, and now USU says that refers to out of the club. So if you've got questions about State Cup, you need to go talk to Sandy.
Right. But there is something in there you just have to be cautious of. I'm just giving you that little bit of heads up. But most teams aren't flipping players.
Most teams aren't doing it. Most teams aren't doing it at all.
They're not State Cup teams.
All right. Referees, next topic.
We're going to get rid of them.
You're going to like
and
it.
they won't have any
The
problems.
parents are going to call the
referees.
The parents are going to call the game, and it's a lot
We're going to
better.
get 2 parents and a couple of kids.
And we coaches get to sit down.
Why not?
Oh, I want to see that.
We need them for.
I want to see that.
We're going to save a lot of money.
Look, this has been a topic of discussion between all of us for a while. The referees problem. It's a huge problem that all of us need to face collectively. We're not as fast as we're losing them. And it's not just us. At some point, this is going to be an issue. I mean, it really is tough. Now, we've done everything we can to retain in U.S. We've changed, and the argument was the no better, getting more refs, no better. We can't change the refs. We can't change if they're good or bad or indifferent or people don't like them. But what we got to change is 2 things. We've got to figure out a way to bring more. We need skeptic thinking. We need somebody that comes up with an answer that's nobody's heard, because all the ones we heard so far we've tried, and they're all incredibly successful, but none of them are getting us to where we need to be. We have a problem, and I think Merrick and I talked, and and this isn't all of them, have a problem going from the sideline to center. We can go on the sidelines to some degree. They like going to the center. They don't care if it's an under 10 game or under 8 game. At them. Scream. I mean, the coaches are still screaming at them. So they really don't. They put in a position from a standpoint of their upbringing that they've got people who are supposed to be their betters and people that they're supposed to respect, acting out and in all ways attacking them, and they're not psychologically equipped for that. So before we lose them, because we can't get them to the field at all, and when you look at our centers now, they're my age. I mean, it's unbelievable. So, and it's not that they're not good refs, but one of these days it's going to be a problem. Stocks, Fred, or just people, is that the?
No, but we have a situation occur in the club with one younger referee, and I feel like when you open up the big picture, that young referee to take the middle spot, and they need that we have their back. The referee is allowed to write or encourage some easy way right on the game report. Hey, and it might be good, but it could have been, it just could have been unfair, and just could have just been too much. Right? It goes back to you. You get 500, you go back.
Let's start from the very beginning. This is a societal problem. It's not our problem. We're dealing with it. We're not going to be able to change. You got $1 million guys on television every day excoriating refs, screaming at them because they're making $1 million, and that's what they've got to do. Either they've got to do it for merchandising to show their players they support them to keep the jobs. So too many of our people are watching this over the years now, and it's become ingrained that that's how you referee. Now, and we still can't change the expectations that parents seem to have today that their child must win the game at all costs. It doesn't matter what happens, that they have some kind of supreme right, and when they go to the fields, that this is some kind of genetic war between the other team. We go to fields with the assumption that the other team are enemies, not opponents. I mean, so it's, the problem is way bigger than what we can solve, but we're tumbled up into that problem. Yeah.
And I feel like the timing of this time right now with what FYS has done is in our favor.
We sent an email out also, and we're serious about it. In other words, but it's got to start with people threatening other teams. I mean, it's got to start at the top. That's how to stop completely. That's ridiculous. Blowing their corks happen. It's happened to me. I mean, all of it's in us. It's what we do afterwards. It's how often it happens. Once the coach loses it, the parents are licensed to do what they feel like doing. Even the coach from the sidelines. We have guys in our club. One or two coaches is probably the calmest guy there's ever been. He still got play. He doesn't hear him. He said, what was going on over there? So, there's a spectrum of problems here, Fred. We can't solve any of them, but we can make people responsible to start with. The club responsible for the coach is responsible for the parents. To the extent in God's soccer now, we can continue to these clubs. At some point, we ask these clubs, we don't want to play anymore. You guys got to find somewhere else to go play because we don't want to have to put up with what we got to put up with when we play against your teams.
What I'm alluding to is it's an open. Anybody can come play, which is great. It's conceptually of an expectation and I like that's why I say
Oh, we do.
But
See, here's the problem, guys. Here's the problem. Is that, and as a vice president of the girls, I mean, I would hear it or hear it all the time. We get this, and it really kind of irritates me because I get either parents or coaches that say, your USA referees don't know what they're doing. Okay, well, they're not our USA referees, okay? That's the first problem. We don't employ them. They're an independent contractor that we do. Okay, I mean, it's the same situation in high school. The High doesn't employ that referee, okay? They use an association of referees, okay? That association is governed by a different body, which is FSR, correct me if I'm wrong there, okay? So what happens is it channels through USA, and it makes us look like we don't know what we're doing. Well, I was just at State Cup and saw some of the worst referees I ever saw in my life. Yeah, I saw some of the best referees I ever saw in my life. It doesn't matter what organization you're in or what league you play in. You as a DOC have to understand and get it across to your parents, your coaches, and your players that this is going on for the rest of your life. you're going to be in the soccer realm, is that you're going to have days where referees take games away from you, and you have days where they, okay, you're going to balance out somewhere along the line, okay? With that being said, I was at a State Cup game 2 weeks ago where, and I'll go, it was my own parent that I had to lay down the law because he was berating this sideline referee, which was a kid, and the kid did mess up, did cause a to be scored, missed the call. But you know what? The kid came over to me as the coach because I wasn't berating him, and I finally got rid of that my parent and said, I don't care what happened here, get out of my face and go home. You know, and even hurt my team, and I agreed with him to some degree. And the poor kid came up to me at the end and said, Coach, I messed that call up. I said, well, you know what? As coach of the losing team, I have to say yes. Okay? But from a director standpoint or from a knowledge standpoint, no, you hit it right on the head, and good job. And it just put a smile on his face. And that's the problem, that we don't encourage these kids even when they do make mistakes. We just berate them.
We're all going to have to look at it.
The problem.
On that,
Gotcha.
but telling parents that they, especially parents, the referee is going to take the game away from us and give it some. They're going to, it's judgmental. That's what I tell my parents. All calls are judgmental.
You can put it however you want. I'm just saying,
That's the way.
it's in their judgment. You can put it however you want. I'm just saying these are the,
We're going
right.
to have a heck of a lot of problems.
Let's move on. You know, let's move on. And so USA can regulate this, or we can, like you said, if we see a pattern of a referee, say, you know what, we'll tell our assigners, we're not going to use that anymore. But coming through us is not the right first avenue. You can report to us, you can report, we can note it. But the serious issue, it has to go through USA or FSR.
Wait,
Can I say?
well, we got a member back there.
Yes, he had a question.
I think that if you is referee can up the game. These parents are controlling. They can go to a field and say, this parent needs to be taken out here. If they choose to, the referee needs to have the authority. He needs to say, this game is over.
Sure.
This. But
Oh, like they do.
don't hear that. We don't hear from clubs. Now, you guys clubs do it, but you guys need to say that this is the way we can bounce the game as the parents out of home. And if you do times and it gets around, it's going to stop.
It's up to the club. In other words, that referee, once he steps on the field, is the final authority at that field that day.
They have support. We're talking
Yeah, and it has to come from,
young kids to be able to go to the field marshal. We have our president at most of our games.
Sure.
Go president and say, this.
and that's where it starts.
But
Yes.
you say that they're young kids, we need an adult figure there that would be able to, that's all I'm asking, that we need to say, yes, we can.
And we require in our rules for every club to sign a field marshal.
Parents need to know, you can be.
Right.
Right.
But that comes from the club standpoint, reinforced by USA and FAA and everything else.
That's there. It's always been there. But my point is there anything else? In other words, we know we've raised the fees to a reasonable level. Raising the fees anymore probably isn't going to get anybody. It may marginally do something. I know that better back, that backing that ref and asking for better conduct is going to help. How about else? Something that really can get us forward. One of the guys suggested we start investing in recruiting things to get referees. Fred? Oh, I'm sorry, Jay. See your brother.
Something that we're trying to do at our club is facilitate an environment for referees. When I lived in Long Island, I took a referee's course. It was on the field, all of which played like a coaching course, and each time in the middle. I'm not suggesting that was a perfect situation, but a training center for the referees, which some of the younger ones will go to, and the younger also play. The relationship, you're not going to get the older guy. I think down here is investing in the youth, getting Roy from 14 up to 18 refereeing and having a full support system. That's over to my right. And then they would want to come come back and then referee again, because we will lose them for college and so.
They may, they
They'll
still
find
may.
a game, but,
Yeah, they may find a game.
Yeah, I wanna make a, I think you started with, is there a way for referees to report if there's a problem? Up abandoned games. Now, some of these were abandoned because of what? And I wanna put something on the screen that may have personal info on it really with it. What I was gonna show is we have had referees abandon games. And provided they write in the game report the information, we do know who the teams are. As I said, some of these are lightning, of course that's not an issue. But for behavior, and it's very important that the referee writes the game report and write down that it is abandoned. And we are and why? We need the full details. Usually there can really help them, but we are monitoring those clubs where that happens.
But how about you guys? I mean, some of these big clubs the guys, or you guys, are you doing anything? What's going on? I mean, how are you getting refs in? Are you working any harder at it? Is there anything you found that's worked better that we can help with that's possible?
No, we're doing anything different than anybody else. We're still scratching around to get referees, and obviously the bigger the club is because you've got more games to play.
Was kids to draft?
Correct. So, you know, the biggest issue is the parent issue, and it is an issue, and we just before that it comes from a bigger club because it's a sheer numbers game. So the more number of kids you've got, and they're idiots, and so they're trying to do it. It's harder. You know, it's easier to police when it's smaller than it is when it's bigger. I'm one of the coaches in my club right now. We've had many issues in the last couple, which I'm going to address. You know, I'll be working for me, they'll do it right when they sign a contract.
But once we start paying them, there is a it's in their jobs. I mean, you know, it's human nature. We're asking them, but I'm saying but you're going to get more pressure to act out to affect something when that happens.
To some degree.
Well, now we have it.
Coaches.
Yes.
Not referees.
Coaches.
No, coaches aren't toe the line or they don't coach.
Yeah, and they have to represent a balance between fighting for your team and
We need every club to go down the line with it.
Exactly, you're right.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, Joe.
Years back when I was at Safety Critters and we were growing fast, we had to build our own referees. So they were assigned to come in and we were anxious to start with academy type and learn referees, but so, you know, that's what, I think every year would be a great thing. We can get the kids involved and in-house and stuff like that.
In general, we are, and we could, because it is a very important topic. I think what we want to do is welcome any ideas, and
Yeah,
with
that's what I'm
Mayor's
saying
team here is, you know, bring them to us. We have a, you know,
Start thinking about it.
let's put something in play that we can all be happy with. That, you know, it's not just on USA, but it's a combination of USA, the clubs, the DCs, the coaches, everybody working towards the same. And then when you start to get one or two that get off the beaten path, they feel like they're out there, you know, a little bit more ostracized, and then maybe they can form a little bit more, or like you said, move them on, you know, and we're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, but we've got to make, and we've decided this year that they're going to be responsible for the bad behavior of anybody there. Continues constantly. We'll get rid of the club, and we've put something that changes here that say the board of directors has the right. Now, we've always had it. It's always been in the bylaws, but it's been a furor. But I think if you look down, I don't know which one it's at, the executive committee shall have the right to completely bar, suspend, or otherwise reprimand or sanction any member for cause that is being insane. Missing excessive league games without credible excuses, excessive or repeated incidents of offensive, unsportsmanlike, or violent conduct by coaches, players, or spectators associated with that club. Conduct the executive committee deems to be not in the best interest of the league or youth soccer in general. So we've put that specifically in there, so they're arguing with somebody about why didn't you let us play. In our, that is always for everything this board does. Thank God there is an appeal process that's got to be vetted. So it's not going to be off their heads or that we don't like somebody. That's not going to happen. But of that, we need to have to say that you can't, it's working with your club because we continually are having issues at your fields or away that obviously we're not addressing. And, you know, if guys can't play, then the kids will go somewhere else. We're not going to punish the kids. They'll go to the club and find a way to play. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes
fines are, I mean, it's a good question about fines, which we'll come to in a little bit.
From a direct view and working side by president, when they sent that notice,
Yeah.
and it went to every parent.
Well, you sent one out before that. Did you get it?
Yeah, the president, we had switched, so.
Okay.
But,
I sent one out, and then Marino sent one.
the point
Same thing, basically. We can't keep doing
from a
this.
director's point of view, it was so easy to go to entire club, entire group of parents, that if we hear peace, we're holding them as well. I just feel like we need directors to come out and just make our job easier, because like you said, parents are gonna be parents.
Well, we could send out directors, and we will. That's our support. That's the way we will support
I
you.
would encourage.
But it has to be a team effort.
You got to get some buy-in, though, from the coaches.
One thing on, especially the big clubs. We're in young to referee young kids. Your baseball, your football, your baseball is your football, your basketball. They all have adult people. We're the new sport because of this. We want to grade them up. If you guys focus, and so what happens is we get coaches and parents on the under 11, under 12, under 13. They're new. They're usually volunteers. The players are new. They're getting into the sport, right? They don't know the laws of the game. Where kind of your perfect storm is they don't know nothing. They're thinking it's football or baseball, and they're allowed. They pay tickets, so they're allowed to yell if they're screaming the referee. No, I'm afraid not. You have no rules of soccer. So you focus on those age groups, 8 to 12. You know, you're going to hit 9% of your problem area, and then those are into the older age groups. You know, we can deal with them. So, but and I probably got a little upset because the individual clubs conducting individual transitions, things start getting askew. You know, they go to another club or they go to another park, and then they're doing it this way and that way. As a referee, administrator, and trainer, I go and I ask the referee, I say, where'd you learn to do that? We're not teaching that. We don't at any level. Why are you doing that? And I'm not sure why you're doing it. Now it's stop, because that's simple and it doesn't work in this game.
So then the referee situation, how can we help them? Can we facilitate everybody to become more visible at the club?
A lot with FYSA, that's got a lot of that out. That's why that memo probably came out. Okay, we deal at that level, not so much the independent club levels. We deal with FSA, which is adult league. You know, they support us, so we're directly tied in with the two presidents of those organizations, and then there, you know, with them, and we're representative, even as he just from the state cup knockout rounds. There's probably some FSR representative there. There was bad referees. We go to those bad referees, so they're not at the final. So, cup final just past week. At least 6 national assessors, and we 8 state assessors, and these are all trainers and educators at assessors at every field of the President's Cup. There will be 2 assessors at every field at State Cup. All right. But now we're assessors as well as instructors, in with the FSR. That's where you guys, that's where the clubs get all their exposure. Unfortunately, at those two events, we try to make sure we're bringing in, and y'all from the game saying,
Right.
Yeah.
Which
game.
it was a nice thing.
That was a competitive game. Those guys were battling. The referee was a fair goal. The fouls were accurate. So you play with that. So that's where at the club level, you know, we're at Region Cup, President's Cup, State Cup, Regional Cup. That's kind of, and that's all within the state. Now the individual leagues at your heart, it's hard for us to be there because we have so many bodies. And I'm the area director of Academy Referee. Okay? Well, all of these, which is the Naples, Hill. And so I'm not going to be everywhere. And I'm paid employee.
Yeah. All right, let's just get the, you know.
So anyway, that's a little bit.
We have a board member that is the ISA FSR representative. It's not like we can't get a there's nobody there. there's nobody here. We don't have referees. We do as clubs. But we don't. All we do is manage them. However, we've I think it's enough to say that with solutions from you that make sense that we can put resources into that will help. Every club, when we find one or two methods that work, we can take it and repeat it over and over again. But we've got to find some thinking somebody's going to come up with something that's going to get programmed, so we're going to start that we can aid or help or put
some kind of like a mentoring program.
So, just as a last comment, if you, as a club, want to do something, put on an activity, and we don't mind on-field training, in-class training, this stuff. Me or Frank, this is our, and then the referee says, hey, we got a class, this club wants to sponsor a class, paper come out, put on a 3 or 4, or do it on a weekly type thing, and help, and then it will be instruction coming from FSR, we'll oversee it, and come out and present those. Okay?
Instead of having funding for it,
Pay for it, we just want the ideas first, and we review that.
No, that's correct. If there are resources here, if we've got it.
well, why don't we take what he said, and if there are 3 or more USA clubs get together, and I'm talking about Fishhawk, Brand, BSI Flames, and Dynamo, and maybe Plant City, meet in Plant City, and have a training, almost like a USA training center, so it's now for all the guys think they know it all and don't want to go, great, but some of the 14 to 18 players who...
Oh, that's great.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
And we would facilitate that through FSR, and we'd get to the FSR and we'd assign an instructor to it, and y'all pay the fee, you know, we put it in the books, we registered, all these guys sign out, you know.
And we could review fees. I mean, you know.
Who knows? I mean, we'll work that. We can work that out, Joe.
We'll do it.
It's these kind of ideas we need to.
Good idea. But let me just add this to all the DOCs again, so we remember this. We think bad referees. Yes, they need to actually, they could become referees. We have to have a point.
Right.
So when we use the word bad,
It's a short word, though. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and one thing we do, we have house referees, very safe, take his opportunity,
Bring them along.
bring them along, develop referees, like we develop players.
Appropriate and pressure appropriate.
And pressure is the biggest thing.
I mean, are you guys doing anything rough?
and pretty much just
If you want
to,
violent.
you know, referees, environment, like, I'm sure they can know, but and two is that short referees. And you, sometimes forced place referees probably were this.
talking about going to God Soccer for the referees now, right? You're gonna have to register so that all the referees are gonna have to be, certified in God Soccer to do this AR stuff. I don't know if I don't know if we're ready for that, but I mean, that's where we're going. That's what the board would like to do. I do too, but I'm saying, I don't know that that's,
We can monitor that.
we'll all have to agree on that, but you understand what that means. Because now, if you don't have a certified AR, who's to that? It's,
yeah.
So what was the definition of your bad referee? You said you just come away. What was it?
Inconsistency, maybe, I guess the best word to say is inconsistent.
It's a false plan. Don't you think the game's getting quicker?
Yeah, it's definitely getting quicker. You want to know something too?
They're not.
You want? I was just going to say that physicality is making an offsides call from midfield, staying with the play. Today, excellent. Staying with the play on the side. The referee right there in the mix of the play. I mean, that's a big component too. When they're in the game, they're in.
Did stay cut down in Charlotte. Not 42 games. And most of it was not keeping up with playing.
Yeah. And therefore the inconsistency comes in.
And it's been physically. You can't line and perform.
Well, we have them there because and that's what we do as coaches, right? Oh, that was offside. Looking at it from this angle.
You have to pass an
Right? Yeah. I mean, that comes down from the FSR level, but I mean. I think an evaluation. I mean, there's plenty of things out there that I think would be important. I mean, I'm a teacher. I mean, I'm being evaluated every day, for something.
One of the situations I've seen a lot in the U10 field, some of the U9 competitive, sometimes, they have problems, and you get run,
I think it's.
so that's the idea, right?
It's moving. Some games are too fast.
I think, and trust me, I'm a high school.
But we clubs, we don't get so in it because it's coming from.
Yeah. I have to say, I'm not going to define. Right. I'm not going to define a bad referee making bad calls. Okay. That's like you said, it's discretion. It's their discretion of others. But like you said, be in a position to make the right call. How can you say? With that being said, so I get the mentality of a teenager. And teenagers I see out there are just like they won't even blow the whistle. Give a little effort to blow the whistle. You know what I mean? And they'll just kind of and be like that. And so I think we need to
Burst my ears.
Oh, come on. Be in the game, be involved, and be in the game, and show like you have control of the game.
With all due respect, the past couple months and stuff has been kind of rough.
Yeah. Wait.
I love what FSR had to say. I would love to see FSR more at off field or bases.
Yeah, it would be good, but that's not going to happen. There is nobody there. You got one guy here that,
Training class.
Yeah.
Let me say this.
You've got to set that up.
FSR is not a revenue producing source. We get the pay fees, and that's it. And then we train them, educate them. We mail out stuff to U.S. Soccer. So guys are kind of, when you get the members and things, when you get your registration on. Y'all an FSR through a program and assign somebody that comes in there. We have clubs that, $10 they come out for 3 hours on a weekend or something like that. Out there, and whoever's there, they'll work with them, and we will assign. I have my grade 5 referees, grade 6 state referees, mentor programs, and we will assign them to come out and look at those.
So you want us to pay their expenses, basically, and you put somebody on the field.
Right, exactly.
Which is fair, but I think I'm going to suggest that every $150 that every one of our teams puts into USA, maybe there's an allowance from USA to each club per year. Say, hey, you can take this allowance together with FSR.
he still may, meetings for referees. Now, this doesn't get us anymore, but at least starting to get the rule as to what we expect them to be able to do. And if you didn't attend it, theoretically, you wouldn't be certified to be a USA referee. So, you know, that costs, I mean, just getting everybody here costs a ton of money just to do that. So 1 or 2 years is plenty. But that's the kind of thing that we're looking at. It just hasn't happened yet. But we've got to do something, and the clubs, because there's no us. It is you.
The clubs take the lead. You know, we definitely support it in one fashion.
Because we're just the clubs. I mean, let's go.
Financially and
Basically, we talk about retain the referees and also create some kind of.
Yes, correct. And we need some open thinking. We're not going to solve it today. Today's got the question out to start coming up with ideas that we can support or we can help or we can aid, because we've got to start getting, we know as an association, we have got to raise referees somehow, some way, and we got to retain the ones we have, you know, because we're going to have a crisis sooner or later. We might as well get at it right now. Take a break.
Yeah, well, before you go to break there, we have a program that FSR actually helped. If you came to our referee administrator and for a mentor to come out, well, all you pay was $25 and FSR paid the other $25. So it's half of it. And FSR was paying that. You know how many clubs we have? Down to 0. Initiated. All you had to do was right, fast. And we're here to help. I want to let you know.
Let's back 10 minutes. Let's get back here and head into 2 other topics.
We got one guy.
Yeah, Coco.
That's
now. This year we do. We'll change it again if we got to. And back and whack any other thing.
I'm going to move the microphone right.
You got to do it yourself.
When we do it, I want to get you involved. I take your own.
And I got one. I was looking for you the first to ask for it. Guess what? You get it, you know? Yeah. And so you'll see who I am there. That's all.
I know what's his name's through. Mike.
I'm at the highest level.
yeah, our pro referee.
Rowdy. You go to the Rowdy?
One against weekend. 1-0 yesterday, 2-0 today.
Well, it was great. It was a great crowd. They bring the sticks and Rowdies there.
We have some players in there.
Right. Now it's on TV now, and it was pretty good. Yeah, no problem. Hey, what the hell? In my city here? No. Well, I was like with FSR. I'm USA Lisa. Yeah.
So what I was alluding to the league.
Here's what happened. I signed. It was. I know the guy. I know the guy. They're a group of people, right? Sign. Together. Group of referees. Whatever. And like last year, I didn't do it. You know, I helped out USA signer, me, because I still play. And this year, you know, changed the signer. Every game we tried to give it to him, canceled. We came in on 4 games. So it just didn't work out this year. Hopefully bring the
You'll have the it's always there. I mean, it's always going to be there. One way or another. I don't tell them we're going to get better. I think I want to get you this.
I never
That's right. Once you get in the middle, I'm parents. We had the president of the Dental Association. Art, I can't remember his last name. Let's say he's a president. He sent me one of my instructor course. Actually, it was a thing. Sat through the course. We were at the jail. We had very good. And I don't know, a couple months later, I said, well, how many games now? Oh, I've done some games. He says, I'll never say anything. Here's what the river is kind of fast. I got done. We're president's cup, and we got a kid that's up and coming. He's a good kid. He's got speed. In a second or third, safety cup, 100-yard dash. There ain't nobody around. There's a foul that happened right now. Oh, you've walked it over? So, the problem is foul recognition. They don't understand sometimes the way they did it. They just didn't think it was a foul. They just think it was kind of a body charge. But again, he got the ball, but he had so much speed and effort. He came through and got after he got the ball. Did he tackle the ball or did he tackle the man? And his momentum, clock, setting him up in the air, laying it on his back, and the kid getting up and crying. And I was saying this way, coaches. Really, one of the coaches was really Florida, you know, and I know, well, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. One guy was, the banking, you know, he was like a big burly guy. So when the hit down, the guy, he says, get out, go. That's just one of those, guess who wants it? Hey, did he stay calm? He says, yeah, he got the show, and he didn't blow the whistle, just get up and go. You know, the kid was he got hit hard. Oh, he was one of their star players. 10 years old, he was star player. And usually, that's one kid out of wherever he has medals, right? Really easy to identify. So it's guys. I like to go to the Hunts, my name. Hey, I loved your look. You were like, you mentioned that's what
He's deep in thought.
Gotta be. You better be. You won't get out. You know, I read a book, I read an article somewhere. I don't know. Some kids hit them.
After we came through the Alice Wonderland. Don't you remember coming in?
Oh, yeah.
You gotta tell all the DOCs that weren't here.
I thought it was our meeting.
Yeah, I didn't take pictures, but I'm telling you, I came in and I'm there. What am I walking into?
My video on a watch.
Eastern Europe and all that. So they put me on. and I'm taking care of it. And I know less. There, and they started giving something like that. They were going to be free. Of course, they were hollering about that. Going the other way. I got called. So by the end of the game, they always perceive us as the enemy. And that's what Paul's talking about. Parents don't have respect for the other team. Coaches don't have you know what? I can't. We're not that mentality. That guy I've had that, and I never had a coach that, because I started out playing Little League football when I was 9 years old. I would just go out there to crush the face. Well, you know, I guess yeah, but I mean, but when we're playing against the Oklahoma, I mean, like I want to take them out. I want to, you know, but now, you know, I'm older, wiser, and more experienced, and that's. I think I've answered your question about that referee.
You were saying,
they're foul. They don't. No. Did you understand it? I understand it. I got it.
I want to be sure. I want to be sure. But you know, I want to be sure that I'm going to say, look.
All right, to a certain level, you have to say,
because if you go between the lines like a referee,
so if you have those games, division,
you would be
on an amateur league. You would be, it's only in Suncoast here on West Coast.
So that's what I'm saying. I would get them.
There's another two.
When you really ask them a question, we put that in.
That game that did not happen, and all 49 of I have a mechanism, you guys want to put on press, you want to put on stuff, you have an instructor that's certified, and knows how to do it. Here's the deal. You learn how to teach kids, and then out of every class, whether it's you or college, you get one or two disruptive people. So, number one, they'll teach you curriculum. Number two, we usually try to train people on how to deal with kids. They're not trying to be like a lot. Usually they're, paying to come here. In y'all's case, they're not. They're showing up. I know that.
But I'm reading.
We definitely want to, I didn't realize. What you do is, maybe that'll.
Yeah, you can ref. Scrimmage, you scrimmage, okay.
The other side.
Practice. You give them and you give it miss that goal, you miss that. Or give somebody just to have fun. And, you look at it the first time. You can't do it with it or 7, you can't 7 or 8 year old. So you identify ways to make it fun. So they have some, they say, well, you can't do that. So really, we could get back this on what we should tell them about. Tell them not to look. Let's get going. We got 3 hours left. All right. We've got the conduct issue. We all got that right. What we're going to try and do. Players, the administrative, the referees, to what we can do, and I think we're getting somewhere today, at least trying. In our bylaws, C5, that any C5, then no goes to C5 to play. I'm not agree with it, don't agree with it. Except if basically the executive committee says, well, we'll make exceptions in these cases. The last 5 or 6 years, we've just watch made the exception. Okay. Here, when we got to the bounds going into the coaches meetings, 70% of our time was spent trying to figure out how we were going to stack or how we were going to leagues together, because it became odious to some people.
need to address it, or we need to agree that we're not going to address it, and we're just going to let it happen the way it is happening. But every single one I went into, going to figure out how to incorporate the 5 teams into the schedule, the issue for the rest of the teams that were going to be in the league with them. I'll give you a good example of a guy that went probably 5 different, there were about 5 different clubs down there. And they're all good guys. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. But the difference between where we end now, let's say it's the Venice, Northport, Englewood, that type of thing. I mean, maybe Charlotte's thrown in there because I understand they're still they're C3. But to where play, and ultimately there is a lot of people that would like to put some kind of definition in as far as where we play and where we don't play. Exceptions. Now, I spend some time trying to find where the center of our playing coalition is. I was able to do it by the amount of kids in each club. But if you cursor around, on FYSA, there's a site, it's a Google thing, and you move the cursor around, it will tell you within 10 miles how many clubs are there, 20 miles. So you moving a cursor around on that Google and you find out, which surprised me, center of our region, the center of our playing coalition. And airport. When you're at the airport, you have the most teams within 5, 10, 20, 30 miles. I would have thought it was 4 and 75 myself, 75 and 4, but it's the airport. So let's just use that. This is hypothetical now. Do we some central point like that we all decide on about around the miles and say in that radius, which is a huge area, anything outside of that we how we're going to handle it. Now, the suggestion has been pretty me, but just to me, was when you're at Premier League and you're over 13, 14s, 15s, 16s, that 15s and above, because that was the way the series was broken out. That goes. In other words, if you want to play the best teams in C, if you want to put the gloves on, that kids and most of the parents are willing to do more or even more to get those type of matches in. But all the leagues, and there's probably 7 playing coalitions out there right now that are alternative to us, all require people to travel and get to centralized sites matches. So the travel, the alternatives, the travel is as much or more. The question travel, do you get the type of play you want to? So one of the suggestions is you take the restriction off everybody in C for the Premier Division, and then anything lower than that, we cap on it. Now, that's a big advantage to anybody outside of that because it's going to force kids inside it, or it's force other solutions. Home games, home games that aren't home games that are played somewhere else off-site. Like that. What do you think? Got a lot of teams.
You won't come up with that.
Sorry, guys. What was it? I mean, you got to have some opinion. The Braden River guys, I mean, what do you think? You're fairly far south. It wouldn't be beyond that limit, but you would be southern end of it if you did something like that. You got that problem, but now
Going north, obviously.
Well, 1 or 2. I mean, it's really not the issue. There's a bunch of clubs in C5. There's 5 clubs. I've got there are 30. We played 34 teams played in our from 32.
We get, from
Me or only a couple.
From the younger standpoint, yes, you got people that complain. The older teams or a Premier Division team or a State Cup team, they don't complain. They just drive. It's just part of
right.
Yeah,
it was
part of that.
That's right. It was basically beyond the Premier Division. That was almost a cat fight for those guys. And there's a lot of those teams we have in through 19, second and third division. We've got a lot of teams playing. So, to some degree, I don't say a lot. I have no idea, but thinking was I got the impression that we needed, that we needed more teams in, so we wanted to get them in. Because them are not premier teams we're playing second, and it's just as valid a thing. And the second division teams, there were very few of them, Jack.
But for a second division parent, someone to travel 2 hours will play another second division team, I do think that's somewhat. I think there's another option for someone to say, hey, no, I can stay in that hours range. The club, the DOT, the coach, it's all going to be a lot more easy to manage. I exclude those five, but I will just, to the point made.
That's what we're asking the question, how to manage it. The first thing is they're already excluded. We have basically, by not enforcing the rules, allowed them back in, which I have no problem with. Personally, I don't have any skin game, but I know sitting at these meetings, it's a problem. It's a carry. The guys down south don't want to be lumped together because they figure, why do we need to be in USA? Because we could do this ourselves if we're going to get shoved down there. Anybody, Minnesota, Braden River, got there with them because it was less travel, and I had 3 different meetings, said, hey, you did last year, come on. It's not any travel for us. There's a gulf between the last team south and that team in C5. And when you start to get to 170 and 80 miles between them, we've got to decide. But we've got to collectively come up with something, or to say we don't care. Touches when they get to the meeting, it's good. But we had guys, the West Masco guy, and I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying he got. That's how bad it got. We drew straws because nobody would go down there. He got the short straw and left the league. Well, it's not the end of the world. It's only one team for us. But the point is that. We've been drawing straws at these things to some rational solution that makes some sense. There are potentially maybe some fields somewhere can utilize as home fields. Now that Coral and Lee County, all guys would have to agree to that. Or you can make it no home games. You can do it by division and say Premier Division. If they got to travel for 2 or 3
I think Premier Division, I see there, what it said. I mean, that's just part of the game.
Anybody else?
But second and third, we need to.
Braden River, I mean, you're down there. Is that you have an opinion on?
Travel.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
I mean, for us, it's like Citrus County. Easy to get out.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
75.
there aren't as many teams up there. Well, you have to go that way to return.
Like a bad.
But there are teams down there. The point is,
I see rail.
there's a lot of teams. We got 1 or 2 clubs up in and so it's limited. At least if it's one game, it's one game. To live with it. We ended up with leagues with 3 and 4. Taking a drive, and I know that there are ambitious people out there that say my parents don't care, but when it gets down to it, you really start breaking it up. There is a resistance to do that, and you're putting a lot of people on the road. I mean,
I think we need to lean a little bit more towards the no home game type of thing, because you look at Braden River, just as is that maybe Citrus is coming down once to see you, but you've got to travel almost every time you away games. Almost. I mean.
But you're at the middle of Coco.
I agree with the Division I teams. Division III.
Yeah, the problem. I mean, it it's not as bad when you have the number of teams involved, you know, but when you get, especially on the girls' side, when you get to the 15s and 16s, you don't have a Division III, you know.
That's really good.
Yeah. And you know, we didn't have to draw straws because you just don't play. You know, you just don't play it. So if there's a balance of neutrality to it, maybe.
So cut that goal, Fred, you do.
Fred's his brother, isn't he?
Fred.
Fred is his brother. Isn't Fred your brother, yes? I'm sorry. I like him a lot better than you.
Oh, we haven't got any brothers.
Fred, brother?
No. Peter here came up with a great suggestion. I believe it's done in another league, and it's a representative from kind of a good idea, and Brendan agreed. Down there, can you play a double header? Can you take care of an Englewood and another game where you're playing two?
Your schedule, you can do what.
We already talked about that on the girls' side.
If we include them, like we do, like the NBL, where we're down and you play two games, and likewise they come up here with, you know, a kick call comes up here with the Englewood.
Teams did that. They said because you control your schedule. You when you're going to play your game.
Club standpoint. You know, we put in that this is the suggested time.
But on you guys' scheduling body.
Yes. See, if you do, you're allowed two clubs to get together to do that. And what most people are going to do is, as a league, okay, this is your
Right.
travel partner. Like the other is your travel partner, you travel with them. That's how it's done. So everybody looks at your travel partner. So if we're going to go to play, you know, Englewood and
It's put in that way, is what you're saying.
Brandon and somebody else, and you know who
Right.
your travel partner actually is when you go play.
Set your brackets.
You have these two clubs that are together. We already know these
Not
two.
so much in the
Yeah.
schedule, but in your division.
Yeah.
You could put.
That's a great
Then you
suggestion.
do like a little round robin type of thing if you have to.
If all the clubs that would do that were at the breakout meetings, it would really help. The problems, we talk here, and there was someone just said to me, you know, I'm tired of coming here to these meetings, and then we go to the other one, and nothing, it's like they're not there, you know, the same guys aren't there, and didn't you guys here, and everyone's like, no, they didn't tell us.
The reason we talked about it just now is because what they're going to do, if you're involved anymore, now they're going to have to be tough players to do get played. They're the same team every week. That's not right for them.
Here's the alternative. I mean, first of all, how many teams do you think there are in C5 that are playing Premier and R3 this year? This is what you have to get the numbers at. There are 8 teams. That's it. All 13 above is 8 teams. Right. Premier.
And there's how many below that?
Oh, yeah. We're not counting 11s and 12s either, because that's another age group that really starts to make less sense of it.
For the discussion, though, we've basically eliminated the Premier.
Because we've already all pretty much agreed
So
that.
you bring them up.
It
So we made
appears that, it certainly appears that way, and it's up to us. In other words, we can make that decision as a board. We don't need an amendment or anything else.
We've eliminated the Premier.
Yeah.
So we're in Division
You're talking the 2 and 3 divisions.
You should travel.
Yeah. Now, the difficulty, let's go back to this, how are they gonna build up to get the first division if they're not playing in the second or third division? Well, what happened, I think the practical thing is, and think about this, I'm not sure what's gonna happen, but that is will coalesce. Probably 1 or 2 of the clubs and to get into Premier. Now look, they might hop to Florida League, right? If they're really able to pull good teams there. Although when we looked at that last year, no matter what anybody says, there were 6 teams from down in C5 playing in that league. They're only playing C5, well, 6 of them do, but I mean 6 doesn't make. We've got 8, they've got 6. The rest of them, I don't know, and I don't care. I'm just saying it's when you look at this, you got to look at the actual numbers, not what we think is happening. These are going to combine. Probably start to do that. Let's say, for instance, we only let two teams, 2 from down there, just for you don't have the right to do that. They want a lot of the players there because they want to play in the league. So you're really stabilizing the other clubs down there by doing that. But that's what would happen. You and I both know that. So that when we have to look at what we're doing, what we're going to allow, we got to understand it's going to affect there. It ends up affecting the other side of this is it ends up affecting a lot of other people all the time having to schlep down there and play games. So that this is good in this room when we meetings. You got coaches that realize what their season's going to look like. And I know, Augie, how many games did you go? Because we sacrificed you when you wanted to. But, I mean, I told you what it was going to be like. Where did you play? 6 teams from down south? I mean, from Below Braden River? Right at the airport, and that's 6 matches. I'm just saying it was like back to tan by the end of the season, getting the parents to go back down there. Yeah.
Yeah, but once compared to you going down that area 6 times.
And it's so
Well, they had 6 teams come up.
once. And that's having to do to get play. In other words, where we had 4 or 5 teams or 3 teams, 2 teams.
Travel partner.
We're building in the when we step into these meetings, we've got these teams, and now somebody is negotiating, whether it's Carl or myself or Mike. We're in the middle of these meetings now trying to figure out the problem, and then that's not to figure it out because now we're negotiating. We drew straws in 14s. That's no way to do it. I was right, when at the short straw, even though he agreed, he realized I can't ask my parents to do that. It's the same. He went back to the club and figured out where he's going to go and said, I can't do it anymore. So,
how about, central location maybe where you can play games in one weekend?
No costs and things like that.
Think about it. Let's say you pay, not speak for Braden River or the complex or something, where
They used to play in Englewood.
Yeah, that's right. It used to be in Englewood.
They used to play in Englewood. C5 home games were in Englewood.
that's further south. We know that was a rule we made. And so we'll go to but we lost those fields. Yeah.
I remember.
And the rest of your games will be played as normal.
That's hard to schedule that way. If we're going to do that, we just make them the home games are there. They haven't got any. Northport, we were able to get their fields 3 years ago. I tried.
Okay.
I was able to use them. I don't know why either the city wanted a lease or there was the fields at the firehouse. Let's talk about it. And it was at the firehouse. Northport wasn't bad. It wasn't the end of the world. It was pretty good. If we could get them again and we had enough space, there's only 2 fields, and there's more teams than that's going to play on the weekends. But and then there's the factor. Then we have referee issues, right? Who's going to appoint the referees? Who's going to get the referees? We can work that out.
Well,
Once we
C3. That would be the
if we determine how we're going to do it. Yes, sir.
Two games in one day. Yeah, lean towards
We're trying to figure out, but I'll tell you, with 500 teams, it's tremendous. Not that it can't be done.
That's when we get our schedule.
But do that now.
You can do that now.
Yeah, but the problem is.
I agree with you. It's not going to happen.
Brandon said the problem. The GOC is gonna have to go through every.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, I'll be honest. It's another situation. Celtics had 2 teams. We had 2 teams. And sending both teams to their place on one time, and both teams got it. We were blew my mind, the fact that was even done. The point, and I'll just say this, and with all due respect to you guys, you're a selling body, but I know, just from talking to a lot of people in this room, USA League, to be more than just a computer's guy and have some bylaws, we'd like a little bit more. It would put a little more credibility to the league.
Yeah. Well, let's start. We're only a board. You tell us what you're gonna do, then we can help.
Facilitate it.
But I'll tell you something. Well,
Make that decision.
Well,
If you guys wanna put that proposal in,
what you're
and then we'll
suggesting
adhere to it.
is more difficult to
Yeah.
convince.
Just like the referee thing, put these things in proposals. And I agree with it. I think, it is a
So that's
great
what we're talking today. In other words, take this back, start thinking about
Once
it.
it's there, then we will uphold it, and we will, this is what you guys voted
Yes.
for.
You're saying that we discussed this now, but then it gets voted on differently, is that correct?
Yeah, at the coaches.
If we're gonna make any more than a change in the C5, we already as a board can wanna do, all right? C5 is already not allowed to play, so we can allow in what we want, not allow in what we want, without any amendments to change the bylaws. Any else, any fifth limit, it's gotta come as an amendment. It
Yeah,
just
put
isn't
it as
us
a
to do
proposal
that.
that we can then vote on at the AGM, or you can vote on at the AGM.
Fine for those proposals.
Days, you tell us.
Well, if they give it to us, then we're good. Give it to us, and we'll put it in as a proposal. Not for us.
Not for us. You tell one of us, we'll put it
It was
20
supposed to have
days
been
before the vote.
put in our last meeting, but we can put
the
it in
board. We'll,
4 days.
yeah.
together and get it to us.
What is the date of the AGM? Okay. So the first.
We would home field for them come up. They can go to the central location. We made it 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that way most of our Saturday games were done. That gave who was coming from the north ample time to drive down, and then
Do that.
Yeah, quite a few.
If we were to suggest that for the second, third division, do you have enough?
So that is our
Yeah. Do you have fields to absorb more games?
I'm sorry,
Fields to absorb more games?
7 full-size seats currently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, we schedule games at 10 o'clock in the morning all the way to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, then we're done.
And you're done at that point, yeah.
So then we have the games that fields from. And you have to
You're
have
saying,
lights,
and
you have
using
to have
those
lights,
fields,
but-
pull it together.
Yeah,
Okay.
we did do that.
If we were to make the home field, if we were to talk to the guys at C5 just hypothetically, and say anything below the first division, you're going to put teams at Braden River. You think will absorb the play.
Try to put, the teams together, yeah.
We don't have any C5 guys here today, do we?
Okay.
C3. Yeah.
Paul?
Yeah,
So, start with 5. I mean, we'll look to you guys. So, yeah.
I talked to some clubs yesterday,
Who?
Marco Island, that are planning on coming to USA next year.
Carlos?
Marco.
Oh.
And there's other clubs, relax.
District,
There's other
D
clubs
is
that
too
are
big.
already with
That's why I say it. Pretty soon we're gonna have.
That are already with us that are planning on putting would it be a facility to visit maybe southern branch of USA?
Well, the guy I talked to now,
The whole region.
they can, but they're why bother the guys that I talked to that we had two of the things. I said, well, make 5 altogether down there. They said,
They'll play each other, yeah, right.
what's the sense of coming here?
But then once you do that, and there's a southern branch of it, there's probably other clubs down there that are not happy with Southwest Florida or whatever, and you'll, those that didn't want to travel to Tampa.
Start here. I mean, we gotta start with,
Rather than saying,
Saying anything, we're asking a question because it's
but there's
one year, we end up in a meeting with problems. It's like every age group, just about, not every one of them. But every group ran into the same thing. No one wanted to go south, so knowing if there was a choice of being in there, that's, they said in a competitive league, you got to travel. That doesn't mean that you could say that. It doesn't work.
No, I'm just, we're competitive soccer. I mean, regardless if it's not second division or third division, you're playing to go ahead and eventually maybe end up in your division. You want to play whatever team out of each division if possible. USA, the only league that says, oh, well, we can't travel 50 miles. I don't get it, because we have Tarsa here. If you want to play Tarsa, that's a localized league, and you can play there without any problems, and you will not travel.
But you can't select your teams in Tarsa. It's got to be an open.
Well,
so
what?
well, there's 15
But then
divisions
different way to organize
down south that I have trophies in my car.
Well,
and
and
they're
she's
quality
right.
teams.
What are the teams that will move up into a higher division?
yeah. If you guys are right, then our members will agree to that.
That's right.
Pretty simple. I mean, it's us. We don't have to do
saying,
it.
there's not really anybody here from C5.
And that's, but C5 is not going to be the determining factor in this. It's going to be everybody else.
Right.
Because they're the ones complaining.
But what I'm saying, if there's enough to do so,
To get to them and asking if they want to do that.
I wanted to say is, I mean, you guys, a lot of these here, right? Parents every year, right? Not do you keep the propagation system? Because really it starts in Division 3. If we would split up into south or north, okay, we have one team for south and one team from the north moving up. And I was there when we started the promotion relegation system. And the main objective was to use players to play against. We had something with with Tampa Bay United, where in the coach meeting, we did to play in the U9s and 10s, make it tiered. Nothing, 15-0, loss, whatever you want to call it. Well, this at the coaches meeting, everybody wanted to be localized, which you 9s and 10s I can understand. But for Tampa Bay United, we the top teams. And with Tampa Bay United was that the teams that we put into the 9s and 10s would get centralized in one region, and you have everybody, some of the clubs in that little circle. That's why about our teams, because not as it was decided on in this meeting, in the DOC meeting. But over what we want to provide the kids is competitive play, where they produce, you play, and everybody's challenged. You have a north, south, whatever, east, west. Well, they put up teams against teams that have no chance of succeeding. If once, then yes, we should go with the localized system.
Well, there's another alternative.
alternative is
What
pretty much
Melissa's suggesting is we make a southern, that's north-south. We, those teams, some of them from down south, accommodation for travel.
I think a small station, just like you go to maybe Braden Rivers.
Well, we don't do anything about it and just let it happen.
If you want to play in a competitive environment, last year, I went with a team and we went to Jacksonville. Next weekend we went to Boca, and so on. So and I don't want to say it's fun, but again, in order to have a competitive game, competitive times, you need to travel. And it's
I'm gonna think his name is Fred if we keep this up.
Oh, it'll be Fred by the end of this thing.
I think you make a point. In Tampa, here, great, the league will become better. And CDL travel last year were very competitive. I'm gonna speak for Cape Coral. They're doing a phenomenal down there. Their team's very competitive. To be in USA and make USA better, along with Englewood and the others. The South, that doesn't bother me, but we can't compare travel for Jacksonville, Miami, and NPL or another league. USA is the league that sits right. Let's all be under NPL and even with CDL. So, travel, statistics for the, we're all somewhere going, business, consumer to parents paying us. It has to be realistic. Some of these parents don't pay if they play in Brandon and drive every weekend to Englewood, North and Braden River just because at that age group we regionalize play. I do agree that want to play the best competition. Fully, for the sake of moving conversation along, the travel and possibly a localized field.
I think you have it as a tiered system, and partially with what Carl is saying, that obviously the higher you get in your competitiveness, the more you're going to travel, and that's the bottom line.
But I think we're talking about strictly, if I'm not mistaken, U12 and on.
Not even necessarily age, but
You told me that we're already somewhat limited as far as the travel. It's full field games that we're talking about.
and where you don't have as many teams or as many clubs or whatever.
That's what we're talking about in the Premier League, saying you're going to play, if you want to play one of the 8 best, if you want to be that way, then you go wherever the league is.
We're going to keep that for.
Under that is a question, it becomes a question, not necessarily a question. In other words, there are moves coming in, there may be enough to start a league down there, but now we're doing the same thing next year in the fall and have to come up with a solution other than draw on straws, which is. And what would
Try to
you say?
find someone that's like a.
Try and find some central point and tell those guys, this is where you're going to play, except for your premier team. Don, what do you think?
Next.
We need to write this down, if you want this as a rule proposal.
If it's going to be a rule proposal, it really needs to.
Somebody has to write it down.
This is done on the board where the C5 teams are not allowed in. Bylaws.
I've got
In the
it.
bylaws.
So you guys need to change.
That's correct. We may change we want on C5 teams because they are only allowed in at the visual age
No,
groups.
you're right. It's right in there. It says
That's why I brought this
it's of the
That's why I'm
executive
saying
committee.
it's something we can do.
So that's us.
Marco Island team decides to come in into USA.
If we,
As their home field.
Unless they're Division I.
Yeah, Division One.
which is going to create teams that are applying to be Division I. It's going to create more of these knock-in games for sure.
Right.
Okay.
As well as travel as well.
I don't understand it, and I'm going to set something.
It's something we can put in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something we can
We
put in
can
there. And
also,
with
if we
the
see
aid
it, try and
of,
encourage it.
with the aid of how it worked or how it works.
I don't know.
But right now, you know,
We could do.
you can still do that.
So,
Teams individually can do that already, we just gotta facilitate it
Do we have
somehow.
that choice? Is that a choice, or are you saying we?
It's always a choice.
No, it says we can,
Real quick, if you don't mind what Carl said. So I understand it because I fall into that category. If you split in the South, let's say Cape Coral. Cape Coral, let's say they won their group there, so they get nothing in that position. North side, you win, they get down, let's say on the north, there's two good teams. Coral, now we got one.
Well, that's the problem with truncating, that's just what he's saying. You're not gonna, I think we're past that point. I don't think anybody wants to do that, Augie. I think what we're gonna lean is to force those teams to come up and play at some neutral field, at least see how it works, and see if that makes any sense. And not so odious for people traveling south. Those guys are just gonna have to bite the bullet if they wanna get in the second or third division, if that's what we do.
This is somewhat, I think, but off topic. I want to propose, we talked about players and we talked about, club passes. I like to propose that within USA, somewhere in the rules, if you play for your club at the Division I level, whether USA or CISO, you can either be through training or club pass, you want to call it, Division III and 18 lower.
yeah, that
It's
is,
in the bylaws.
It's in the guest playing rule.
and is transfer in there? We may have to add transfer in there.
Well, somebody have to write, we have
So you would have to include transfer into that rule. As,
no, totally separate.
right up some with transfer.
Transferring.
But we've already got in the rules a really, it's 2 pages. If you check it. It's all you can go for, I mean, you just gotta read it.
It's gotta be transfer, though. Transfer is.
You're talking about transfer.
Yeah, because we already have it for guest play.
Couple clubs that are transferring players, and then you get.
That needs to be added to it, yeah.
Somebody will have to, they want to write.
The problem with, travel partners, you know,
Yeah, they will, that's why I can't get it.
that's,
We were saying, so you might want to put that in or submit that to us so we can,
Linda probably can word it properly.
we can put,
So basically, they can't transfer a kid in and then transfer him back out again.
right.
You would limit transfers. It would be limiting transfers.
Well, it'd be play.
No limiting transfers, not play. It would be player eligibility, and if you would say that the roster has a limit so many players,
We can get that in somehow, we'll figure.
the team is, I know what you mean.
Next topic, fines. Everybody good with the fines? Everybody's a little surprised. We proposal, anybody have a problem with the fine system? $250 if you don't show up to a match. Forfeit, it's $250. Nobody's got a problem with that.
Yeah, just put it under your coaches, because they have a lot of problems with it.
Yeah,
But,
apparently.
again, there was gray areas, and not to really get into a big, long conversation about it, but, you know, when you agree as much as, and it affected my own club, and once you start doing one thing for one, then it just dominoes all the way, and you have to do it for everybody. So I think we got through the year of the change, and now we just keep, going with that. Just from your coaches, is that you guys were in support of it, because as you mentioned, you want us to take a little bit more of the reins. That's what we're going to do.
Well, that's the fines have already, they've been in the bylaws for years. Nobody
We never
did it.
enforced them to the extent that we enforced them this year. So.
And you can reschedule games 21 days in advance. I mean, USA went from absolutely no game change. Anything,
As long as it's 21 days.
as long as it's more than 21 days. I mean, that was trade-off. And I had coaches that wanted to cancel games 3 days before the day and basically throw a temper tantrum about the fine. good referees, because when you game like the last
You get
minute,
who's left over.
you get leftover refs. Nobody wants leftover refs.
You need leftover refs, all right?
It's not like pizza.
You're the first 3 days and they're bad.
That's right.
So,
Let's refrigerate them.
you know, you ask the assigner if he can find a referee, he might be able to, but it is going to be the top of the list.
All right, we'll just pass. I'm sorry? I thought so.
I don't know, I mean,
You know what, we'll find out next year when people start to understand, well, they do mean business. I mean, I know I had our DOC, you know.
There was a
He was always
suggestion.
with the coaches to get it done, because they don't want the $250 fine. You know, it would be, so they're not gonna do it. What do you mean you're doing it this time? You know.
A lot of them have decided
No, I think there was a lot less forfeit.
game instead. As soon as they told you we're gonna pay $250, they said, oh, I'll play the game.
What reason why, what was the reason why it canceled?
Mostly the ones that complained was, I got, typhoid, the flu, all of a sudden, a lot. And again, it comes in a lot with the senior team, in the SAT thing, and the ACT, and all those things. So you have to, you've got to tell your coaches to be proactive about that in looking up those dates when they're scheduling those games, and realize if they made a mistake, get with us.
What happened was, we gave y'all the flexibility to March 1st. A lot of people scheduled, and then they found out, we got region cup, we got SATs, we got ACTs, we got the prom, we got a wedding, and we got school playoffs. I'm my star player. That generates a lot of the stuff, and mostly in the, the spring, the coming in early.
Show you all something. There's no pending.
We gave you all this flexibility, and then
Look at these games that were rescheduled. I'm scrolling through them. I mean, these are people that 2 days in advance got these games rescheduled. Maybe 10 or 12 of these were ones that we had to actually contact the assigner because they were within 21 days. But the system worked. They're rescheduled with no skill if anybody's back. And it's all of coaches that when they're within usually 3 days. The first part was those that scheduled games for Region Cup dates and then the day before wanted to reschedule. And it's you picked that day. We didn't pick that day. You did. So they're the ones I think that really complain the most.
You need to be very aware of all those dates of the ATTs, Region Cups, State Cups, all those, and not play on those days. And if they can do that, you'll probably eliminate a lot more of the ones that we did have to. It's a simple solution.
But these are approved.
The change in our clerical output as far as what we're devoting to it should help also. We'll be a lot more, or we'll try to be more proactive in these things, so it change before it needs to be a problem. A lot of it just was inactivity. Somebody an email off, didn't get anything back, and it just continued to go until it was too late. We did a suggestion. Let me just read it aloud to make sure we don't want to do this. This is the coach. If a coach needs to reschedule, this is about the reschedule. If a coach needs to reschedule, even as close as 3 days before the game, agree to reschedule the game. Okay, the team needs to reschedule. In other words, whoever's asking for the reschedule pays referee fees. Home or away team, and the game's rescheduled. Right now, allow a reschedule. The U.S. rules don't allow a reschedule of that match. So either it doesn't show that's asking for the reschedule, and they pay $250 and forfeit, the other doesn't play because we're not wanting them to reschedule the match.
The referee assigner says he can.
We're going to have to take a look at that because we're already our referee assigners have said, we're assigners saying, can we do this? Well, then they feel like rats if they don't, get it done. So the same problem exists, that 3 or 4 to match, we're still trying to juggle referees. What he's saying is, we go referee, whoever's asking for that reschedule, pay the referee. But we allow teams can play. Now, the question becomes, and this is what's going to happen, is when the reschedule going to be? That's always but that's where we've gotten into issues before that still can't, we can't agree on a date.
And basically what we're saying is that we're not gonna put it in as a forfeit, you know, put it as a forfeit for the team that has to, if both coaches agree to saying, I'd rather play the game than just come up with a forfeit. And that's up to the discretion of the team that is being asked. But the only thing that I said about
not the referee court.
Not the referee, but the team, my team says, I'm not enough players, it's 3 days, they had the flu, yada, yada. Do you agree to reschedule? Yes, I do. Okay, well, we're going to still pay the referees for that game, and then we reschedule the game. Instead of it being no reschedule, you win 3-0 on a forfeit if you agree to it. If you don't agree to it, then it's a 3-0 forfeit on our part. I like a little bit about that is, like, for example, this travel situation. I had my team, my girls, where the coach was upset because all the players, and at the last minute, all the players said, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, and didn't show up. Well, I'm not going to have you drive all the way up from Brayton River to pick up 7 players. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we wanted to just go ahead and you know, and they both coaches agreed, I'd rather just reschedule it. You know what I mean? With a little bit of fluctuation, but, you know, we don't want to change it too much because
that would mean our schedule wouldn't be a schedule, it would just be recommended game time. They would be doing that. I mean,
well, now we have to take into consideration.
I mean, we have to come to the point where the schedule is go up. That gives these teams a tone. When you're saying, oh yeah, the home coach can call the away coach and tell him not to come, then it's.
I think if you're going to go with that, you have to pay the ref and the.
No, don't play the game.
Well, I'm just saying, those are the 2 different proposals. One, we say, or you say, it's done. The other would be to say you want to still a game play, or the team that's canceling plays. But overall, it was.
The old system is good. It's just a suggestion someone made.
It's just a suggestion that we felt the need to have to bring it up.
Yeah.
That's nailed us. I think that opens up a lot of clerical problems potentially.
Well, you're trying to do everything 2 days before the game.
A lot of things.
You're going to know who's doing what.
True.
He says you could be and better refs. The ref could get another assignment, and he still gets paid for
He
that.
still gets paid.
Right. So, I mean, now we're going back and forth, and it ain't that easy. It's just not that easy. All right. For the agenda, that's, I think, everything I wanted to cover. Anybody else? Carl, you gonna? 9s and 10s.
We should ask some questions about how the season go for example, for the senior teams. This was last year was the first year that we played 14 games, August 31st. So, you know, would be the feedback, was that okay? No, 10 games all before the end of October now to schedule. We had some comments, well, it's too long, and, you know, teams just gonna disappear, and then others that liked it. So what's the general consensus? Should keep on doing this?
With my club, it's real well. Like this, some games they love playing. I the whole thing down, and everything else. At the time, they were able, some of them work. They were able to get what
Reasons with these older teams not a problem for anybody. All this
I had a problem because we coached also another team. We haven't played much of 15 this year. It did not really show because they were having a terrible time trying to catch up. All of the
realize that you don't have to,
What happened was during the meeting, last year, I was not able to attend, and that's why I was routine. That's the problem. Roger, the girl one, but not the she ended up going to the other because I was out of town. Because Pastor decided to flip off for the under 13 to take the command on a 3-division team, Division 1 team. We have to do Division 1 because of hopefully this next time around, maybe around the 13th, we'll get there. But Slay, Bill, and those other teams, we would have just and that's what I told Paul. There was no way possible. And unfortunately, since I wasn't able to be there, I was delegated down to the 3rd division. I put emails and everything that,
but you were, well, I mean,
Right. And again, we can't stress the importance of having representation.
Right.
So I mean.
Unfortunately, I work for the state, and that was.
Oh, hey, we all have those schedules, but you gotta have representation there because you can claim that then, and maybe everybody says, oh, okay, well, we don't want to get creamed. Do this,
You guys, a game, they say, play Braden River on a Sunday. The day before we went up south, somewhere down south. But the problem during the week, how can you explain some of these players to try to get them better? And it's quality. I'm not going to tell you that they're not. But when they beat, well, we kept them getting beat 2-1, 3-2. We're playing 1 or 2 games with the blowouts with 6-1 or something like that. But coach, we don't have the opportunity to grow on our mistakes.
I'm sorry. Okay, which game did you play?
This was under 15.
Huh? Okay, we're talking about now the senior schedule.
Yes.
So, okay,
three schedules.
so 15, you played all before the break.
Saturday and Sunday.
But after that meeting, rescheduled. I mean, we just put it in the system like that, but you were free to reschedule it. So what? So you didn't know what to do it?
I didn't know.
There was nobody there that would have told you.
Now.
Rod, but again, I mean that.
But that's why I'm here today, and
So good. Good job.
So now you know.
But and that doesn't have to change. That's why you need to.
Anybody else? I mean, that
So
reschedule.
you'll agree with the schedule, it really would work for you, because then you could alter it.
I'm glad we could help
Now
you.
that you know about it, right? Okay.
How about anybody else? A reschedule's a problem at all in the older age groups?
You're going to get 3 people that love it, 3 people that hate it. So you have to.
I haven't heard anybody say they didn't like it.
You manage it, it's okay.
The system was set up so
It
that you
seemed
had,
crazy from our end. I mean, there was so many changes, but.
yeah, the system was set up. You had 14 games. We found dates just because we throw in dates.
Try.
You could schedule them on any day you wanted prior to March 31st.
Same thing will happen.
Next.
Right. That's not going to change.
I gotta stay here.
So
Be ready to
Are you
play them in a month and a half.
Yes, sir.
Just my comment on it is thought it went well for the most part. Back to back. It wasn't so easy. It sounds easy to get those games scheduled by the end.
Yeah. No, it's not. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was able to get a couple of them.
I think everybody will learn that next year, and you start to let it go to the end, and all kinds of things come
Are you
in.
talking strictly the seniors now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think, and you're talking about number of games more so.
Just a couple less, maybe 12.
And that really has to be determined at that coaches meeting because we don't know how many teams are going to be in.
No. It's got, if
Yeah, that's right. With 8, you get 14.
14 games.
Yeah, everybody plays one.
If you want less
You
games,
decide,
the division has to be
right,
smaller.
but you decide whether to play 2 games if it's 8 or if you play 1, you know, or whatever. You know, you can't.
It's one, and then you don't play everybody. So right away, if it's promotion relegation, the argument is, I got 3 of the tough teams and Joe didn't.
Right.
No, you
That's
have to
been the
play.
issue. Yeah.
You can't.
If you have to play play 12.
Well, it's like in high school. We decide district-wise whether to play 2 games each year or 1 game each year. And the coaches all come together and say, well, there's 9 teams, so we're going to play each of them twice. That only leaves us 4 games, you know, or 4 to whatever amount of games we're going to reschedule or schedule in addition to that. Or they decide we're only going to play each other once, and then it opens up to playing that. And that's what I'm saying can be with the bracket once we know how many teams are in those age groups. Have tons of them, so you say we're only going to play each other once, or some have only the 8 and we're going to play each other twice, or you have 8 and you only want to play each other once. That's up to the at the time.
Yeah, we can do that. But
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
You cannot have teams play 10 games.
Right.
That ain't gonna.
So we tried that. I tried that. I allowed that. We allowed that in the girls' age divisions, and even though I said, hey, I don't want to hear it later on, I heard it. So it's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, you can't.
New tens. And problem, I mean, a real problem when we got to Carl mentioned, we had a decision, or the group made a collective decision last year to help head coaches
said to have the DOCs sit
and
down.
decide what makes sense for the team, since they knew a lot more about 8- and 9-year-old kids and where they ought to be. Meaning, apparently, nobody told the coaches that. You know, a couple of teams, but a lot of it, you know, what are you talking about? You know, they looked for me, or the DOCs weren't there. It was no relationship between what we decided in this meeting and what actually happened at that meeting. So back to that and revisit it, because we'll do it last year. Go ahead.
I think we're in a position to do that, really. Because officially competitive play starts at U9. Your best
to do that
would be
outside of USA.
to go with local clubs, like example, Tampa Bay United, or because our whatever, depending on what the program is called, our U8s, like for us, it's the Futures or whatever, and I'm sure we could play games, you know, as a group. In West Plains, Tampa Bay United, West Pasco. I think that would be probably the way to go. So the whole league, we're going to get into the problem that we have, or the older ones. What do we do with Cape Coral? What do we do with Citrus? Then all of a sudden we're talking about.
Well,
when do you start travel? Regardless now, I mean, you know. Well, that's okay.
You want to mix the kids in with the 9s.
But see, that was the initial, and that was discussed last year, and that's why that the Ds or the academy directors or whoever's in charge of the young ones, that we together at this meeting, actually before the actual coaches meeting, and create those divisions. What the COCs have to say on knowing, okay, well, actually, maybe one of my weaker teams, they're all US or whatever, so we're going to put them in maybe the 3rd division, because just I have this other team, which is a true U9 team. They've been playing for 10 years already. So I put them in the top division. But the idea that came out of last year's DOC meeting, okay, it was then completely different at the actual, for the U9s and 10s, but regardless, was we just don't want to travel more than 10 minutes. Now that the U10 teams is the same price as the U8 team. And we wanted to avoid. So it's up to you guys as Cs or as leaders of your club to figure out, okay, what do you want to do? Fred is first.
I really remember the meeting. I was actually walked in about 20 minutes late and called upon to actually even speak on this topic. I was shocked to know that when my coaches came back, I said, did you get put in Division II or how did it go? He said, no, we're just scrambled in with everybody else. I'm absolutely shocked to hear that. And I tell you, I've been at every academy game and at home. And of my time, both on the attacking end and when on the losing. Absolutely.
Again, that was why we put it up in the first place last year. And like I say, I was shocked too when I saw the coach all of a sudden decides, oh, we're going to do it this way, not the and that was the reason why Tampa Bay United said that no, we can't do it.
I thought, I'm shocked to hear it. I thought everything was smooth. I thought that day we all agreed. That was the previous one. A little too much to drink that.
I'd like to say
No,
something.
but I thought we were going to run the same thing this year again. I mean, I told my coach what was going to happen. You know, basically everything would be done for him. You know, and then get back on.
We're believing that Sherry's working on getting all the arrangements. So, GM, the dates for the coaches meeting, and we have for the Cs, we want you to come for the U11s and U12s. That's one day, and 10s another day. It's two separate meetings to put into groups. Just stay there.
Yeah, stay for the
Stay there, and you can make sure that the coaches don't undo all the good work that you do.
You give warning and then they undo it, and
Well, you should have the power to undo it.
well,
I was wondering, once we get it done, it's done.
then we don't need the coaches.
The coaches, because we're giving them the rules.
Some of them don't have DOC.
Waiting for the decisions, though. We can have a meeting. Here's your rules and regulations. Goodbye. We're going to set the team.
So establish the process, the final decision, unless you don't have a DOC, then you make your.
Or it's just the DOCs that are here, and we make the final. Either way, you know.
All of the DOCs that either.
That's correct.
I think the most important thing is, and again, something to the effect of we would have the DOCs there, or academy directors or whatever, because at that time you really truly can see on the screen what we're actually dealing with. The DOCs are together, you know, can determine on what is the best way to get those teams up into groups. Okay, so that's number one. That's for the U9s and 10s. The reason that we'd like you guys to be there for the U11s is because that's the first time they actually 1, 2, and 3. As you should have a pretty good grip on where you think your team's gonna stand. That's why we need the input there. Obviously, look, you guys have coaches. They just think, well, they didn't do anything wrong. They're the best out there and whatever. So they're gonna like to stay as high up as possible, and first one wins. Again, so that's where it's very important to have you guys' input. The older they get, the easier it is because there's a history, a game history involved. So it's important to have you guys there and to voice.
I would like to say that at the very minimum, you can. Every club does, but nobody should just know what we do, but let's be honest, not every club, some teams are new. At least, very least, you can. They split at least two ways, on division, new teams and teams that existed last year. Okay, and how well we did
and we can do that with your help. See, 9s and 10s is definitely different because also, I mean, you know, there's no 3 guest player rule or 3 players now, whatever. So you can make week to week. And you can develop competitive games. And that's the most important thing. And again, we as a board or whatever, we can make those decisions. And from you to be say, look, I mean, okay, I know this team, they're very good. They've, you know, developed them. And again, hey,
We didn't even have 2 divisions last year at U10. I can give you DOC's name out in Pinellas County, and I practically had all the girls teams sitting down and said, all right, how many of you are new girls teams? 10 of them were brand new. And I said, how many are you returning from last year? And 10 of them raised their hand. And this is an argument about how to split this. And I was like, hey, I'm gone. This is what we do. It just makes sense for me. And then you go to Pinellas maybe 4 times and up there, but you got the good games. Some of these games are not good.
well, and this is the problem in those age groups. And that's why we need to solve this by putting groups that are competitive.
Honest,
and
competitive type teams.
I thought that's what we did, that I'm lost in the whole thing.
Yes, but a lot of to some degree, I wasn't part of that, but a lot of the stuff, after that would then change by certain coaches and certain.
Yeah, but Joe, when a coach is telling you his team's good, it's some kind of some things because he loves his kids that they're good. They weren't good, but he insisted on being a first division. No, Jack would have known at his club that hey,
All DOCs out in the last meeting, the
DOC's at the meeting. That was the problem. We didn't get them there to make those decisions.
No, we got them at the DOC meeting and they said, great, but then went to go sit.
No.
No, we didn't.
I know I had 2 DOCs at that meeting
Right.
of all the ones that were at the last
Yeah,
meeting.
they didn't show. That's right. It wasn't.
The initial meeting.
The initial
We'll
meeting
try the
was
same thing
DOC
again
meeting
this year,
was in April.
But someone's got to get there from your club to hey, these kids are pretty good, these guys aren't, and this is where it would be, and hack it out.
In April, you don't know your teams, but
Our coach is making that estimation about 7 and 8-year-old kids that just are not capable of doing it. So we're going to try the same thing again with the DOCs.
we're going to get the DOCs, not coaches.
Well, we're asking that you get to that one.
So
Get
you
them
know,
set
in
them.
the coaches meeting, though, you want that you.
I tell you, if everything
necessary.
look,
I thought that's what we went
Everybody.
over and over on schedule.
if it's well,
Yes, at that scheduling meeting, you should be there, yes.
I was there.
Okay. No, I meant you, plural. You all.
Oh,
see with the 9s and 10s, if everything goes well and we have the participation of the Ds,
We don't need the
we should be able to go to the coaches meeting,
You're just getting all that.
give them the okay, what is a game report, what is it, and then present them, okay, this is your division, this is your schedule. That's it. We don't need input from the coaches because the academy directors of DOCs have already decided on it.
But we didn't have that going into the meetings.
Yes, we didn't have that.
We didn't have that going into the meetings.
As far as I'm concerned, and as a vice president, that's the way it should work in the 9s and 10s. You know your teams, you're the expert on your team. You can say it now, April, what your teams are going to be like. So you've made the decision to do that, then we have to follow up with it with the same amount of people, if not more, that are in these seats when we decide the division, not your coaches, because they don't know what's going on.
All right, one more. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna attempt to do the same thing, and hopefully we'll have more participation. If it doesn't work then, I don't know what to do. You live with the same thing.
there if you
Lots
get
of
the
luck.
top 10 and the new and the old and all that other stuff.
Or email, I just want to put this out there. There was a proposed idea that in the relegation, okay, that the league position is controlled by the club. The team ended up last year is the club's, okay, not the team. So what happens is the 50% rule, which allows coaches to leave and take teams, ends up hurting the club. Teams leaving will be considered new teams and need to play at entry level next year. What this is designed to do is to give the club more power to, hey, we have is supposed to be going in the first division. 6 kids, and they went over here, and now they're claiming they're that team because they've taken the roster and said we have 50% of the kids. What they're doing is making that spot good for or beholden to the club. So the club owns that spot. Now, is that you create elegant play if you got a real bad team, but you stick to it. Now, hopefully, a club isn't that stupid that has lost the team and will put them on the first division just to get waxed. I don't see it's in anybody's vested interest. That's the problem with this. The good thing is that the club should be, if we're going to have a league and we're going to have any standards, that the club control the spot, not the 50% of the kids. Jack.
There are pros and cons to that, like the club's controlling it, but the club should have the power to say, hey, we don't belong here.
Well, they can.
Okay.
Well, we're going to do that.
We're not gonna force you.
They can do that.
We had exactly the same proposal on the table up in Minnesota about 12, 14 years ago and also. Exactly. Parents just bring a team, taking it right, ready to go.
Well, we keep some continuity.
Right.
Just save the club.
First of all, you see it all the time, my gosh, you know?
Will that require a rule change?
Yeah, because we've got a rule
Okay.
in here that returning teams have 51%. So,
Change that rule.
we would change that rule, we would have you all vote
All right.
changing the rule.
Yeah, smart enough not
And then
to
the
force
club will
that team.
decide, we're gonna use that spot, or if not, we'll form, yeah.
Now, we can tell us to put that rule, so we can go at it.
Yes.
Put it, we'll email it to Frank.
So that email right there,
You need to let me know what you want done, because I don't have that stuff.
so that email right there for the individual, close to the rule for the 24 hours.
You guys, not.
No, that was from another board.
It was a board member.
It was a board member that proposed it, so we come from you. And we'll put it in place.
We want to at least make some sense out of it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm looking for,
But the rule has 51%.
yeah, there it is.
The rule goes with the kids, as it is
It
now.
has to do with new teams, this
Right.
is the rule that we've got.
I think we don't need, I don't know, in my opinion, we don't need to change really the 51% rule. I'll tell you what. The thing is, it's okay. Like, whatever, West Florida Flames, you have a division team. Let's say coach takes the team somewhere else. Now the team becomes a new team. Okay? But then that, I don't know, should mean that you still have a premier team where you have one that's the right to get a premier spot. I don't know.
That's what it would.
I only hope that they wouldn't do that.
Again, the team that
Hope they're not that
leaves
stupid.
loses their spot, but not necessarily.
Protect the spot.
You're trying to.
Yeah. Protect us from just picking up and leaving.
As a group, we have to stop these parents thinking that they own the game and they don't.
Right.
Right.
And they can hold a gun to my head anytime they want and say, we're going to go, we're going to take all our kids with us and everything else, and there's not a thing I can do about it. That's from our point.
Well, they don't have to play in USA
It's
either.
a good rule to protect the clubs.
Do that,
Yes.
that's what you want to do. If you don't want to play for us, that's fine.
Not going to make that team and play under a different banner.
No, and that's fine. I don't want to keep the spot, but if it leaves and goes and takes the ball somewhere else to go play, should start at the bottom all the way back up.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. And that rule plays that out, right?
There's another rule that
But they also have to go away from the new team rule. Can challenge.
so that's the other one.
Yeah, we need to take
Because
that piece
that's
out.
not gonna happen.
No challenge, just take that piece out, right?
That's right. It's beating everybody around.
Exactly, because every team that I
Oh, wow.
know of that is challenged has been one that's
I
been
know.
approved.
No challenge.
I mean, that's the way they,
That's the issue.
So let's say you learned the money, and your club did a great job for 2-3 years to develop and get that
Mhm.
spot. They left and again, apparently.
they're not going
They're
to
also
leave.
hurting your club the way we maybe recruit or promote at a high level too. And if they don't, they have to get.
Let's make it real. We just check out the
mean, if you're doing a good job of developing your players, those players into the Wolves, but
You know what, we want you guys to have that discretion.
From a perspective, if we're trying these clubs accountable for the coaches, for the parents, for the referee training and all that stuff, there is some obligation to protect protect their position in the division. If they get a team to put up, fine. If they don't, then says don't have it this year, well, we have to forfeit it. But if we want to move our guys up and they're going to get hammered all year, but the next, so we're holding you guys, trying to hold you guys accountable for stuff. I want to listen to the club.
There's a consensus here for this. How do we move this process along?
We'll draft a,
We'll talk for another couple hours.
Yeah, we'll draft.
Yeah, we're gonna draft a rule. Out the challenge.
We're gonna take out the challenge.
We'll redraft that, so when the AGM comes, it'll be on the.
I got the gun to the head
Right.
Yeah, we got to get rid of that challenge part.
That challenge is I
like it from the board, I like it from a coach. Yeah, you wanna go, but you're gonna start from the bottom, you're gonna work your way up. We as a club is gonna.
You understand, they can know us out of USA.
But Brent,
Thank you.
what do you have a crappy coach and he wants to play for him and you keep him in that spot?
That's all.
Then it's on you.
Then it's on you.
If you have a crappy coach that the players don't want,
Wait, didn't you?
just leave, your coach stays. You should have taken the coach out, then the kids would have stayed. That's another, I mean.
Did you wanna go over any of the other that are already in the number one, the 18th and 19th and application requirements, I'd like to go over. That has to do with the division.
Last item.
I know, we'll kill everybody.
This might, what this might do is,
What's gonna happen is the teams are not gonna leave.
last one, I swear.
Okay, there's two items. One, 18s and 19s, the other is application requirements. I'll do the easy one first. When your applications are due, that the fees are paid. So for the senior teams, that's July 1st. But first. This board has to look at the teams and put them in divisions. Teams that show up at the coaches meeting to pay, we don't put them in divisions. To do our job, we don't know what teams are there. So this is saying that when you apply, you pay. You wait and say, I'm going to pay at the USA meeting, or the check is in the mail. Okay?
Hold on,
I just want to make sure. Do we have consensus that because what's happened in the past is we've had teams drop out because they paid no money. Now, your schedule's redone. I know how much you love getting that email saying your schedule's redone. So we're trying to stop that. So that's what the application requirement means.
Yeah, I'm in there.
Seniors and
Yeah.
This is still gonna be voted on, Joe, next month.
But we're
Sure, pass, all right.
That's fine, yeah.
I would like it to pass. It makes life a lot easier.
And July 1st and August.
Passes, I guess what we're just trying to say is that we're going to really hold you to it this time, just like we did with the fines. That as a VP that's looking at it, and Linda says, okay, here's all your teams, and I go, okay, who hasn't? Well, paid. I'm going to say, well, they're not in that. I'm only going to develop it with these guys, and I, Melissa, I'm sure could, vouch for that, and you're aware.
I do the fine unless I have to pay.
Return money, guys have legitimate reasons for not doing it.
Oh, yeah.
We're not here to bully our
What was the other thing you were talking about?
Okay, 18s and U19.
This is a lot bigger.
That was the easy one.
Last year, we went 17s to 18s, that 18 age group. So, there, 6 that are, promoted gated. You got D1, you have your 8, you have 8 and 2 and 8 and 3. 5 teams that were returning U18 teams, teams and playing the same division. So we had 13 to 14 teams qualifying for 18 and 19 that were returning.
We combined those two divisions to get better, thicker play. 19s and 18s.
But we had a huge problem because they were, in fact, taking the positions that were earned by the 17s that had advanced. And we have a club that only has a U19 team, so it's new every year. Be playing U19 because they combine 16, 17, 18, 19 together. They're always going to be a return team. And so they're us as a returning team. So what we do, U18, U19, you don't guarantee the slot in U18, 19. That's guaranteed to the U17. And the rest of them, well, we'll fit you in.
We'll fill you in where we have them opening spots.
But
If not,
Qualifier matches.
But if the club had a U18 team
We're gonna have a
and a U17 team, the U18 team the next year goes to the U17 team, and teams is, well, we'll just see what happens because.
I don't know how many teams are used to play every month.
Pardon?
If there had 13, 14 teams apply, you just have to play one.
Well, yeah, we'd have to look at it. I mean, we had teams.
Because we sometimes have like 23 to 28 teams.
right, and
So that divisions.
We're demanding the right. We have
I should be in first division.
five teams
because they
demanding
played in.
the right to challenge as a new team because they were
We're taking that
last
challenge
year. I know. It was this huge thing of, you know, they had 13 teams that for 8 slots. It doesn't work. That's when you talk about the people coming up, it was those returning U18 teams that were coming. Well, we were, you know, in third division last year, we should still be there.
So, team, but they changed out 80 of their players.
And said, now we're a new team, so we're all gonna challenge. Every club, they were all new.
Oh, yeah, that was a nightmare.
You guys can figure that out.
We had a meeting with all the other divisions in an hour, and then like 2 hours for that division.
It was,
Carl.
All right, so we're established there. Anything else?
No.
Feel like the guy in a traffic
You
class.
have your allotment of questions and or.
That's right. No more from you guys. Anything?
Keep in mind is that if you guys want a little bit more, you know, taking a little bit of range, you guys, we're gonna want you guys, you know, as the DOTs, not necessarily the coaches.
Or the presidents of the club.
Or the presidents of the club, or whatever, but I officials.
I have something I'm going to bring, but this is so good.
When your vacations are this year.
I'm sorry. Okay, we are paying some of basically young kids, they're going to become 19, 16-year-olds. And when there's a fight, and one strike, if it's an 18-year-old strike, a 17 or 18. I don't know.
Why I say
Bring that to you and figure out.
Well, what do the high schools
How
do?
do we protect the kids?
You
Have the same problem.
and they go to jail.
And play.
That's something I just thought I'd bring to you guys. We protect the kids and.
Usually it's in a sporting event, and it's become civil versus.
You know, they actually have kids that been arrested for striking a young man.
Yeah, good.
And one don't matter whether it's sporting event or not. All right, we're gonna end on that. Motion to adjourn. Yeah.
Well, this is a formal meeting. It's just-
Okay.
We're done.
Great fun. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Wow, no, that's better. Done.
Back it in, guys.
I love it.
Hey guys, thank you.
Sorry.
I wasn't, I was wondering.
I don't mind. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, now you come shake our hand. Wants to give us all this grief. That's the way players are. They give us a lot of grief. Then they come shake our hand. Great job. Thank you, guys. Players. Carl. Hey, good stuff, man. Thank you. Mark Arden, I like to Mark Arden.
Huh?
I like to go to Mark Arden.
They got strong teams down there.
They do, but they are rough. There's a whole bunch of retired people down there.
No, the kids.
What's up, dude? This town has a good, Ave Maria? Have you seen the people there? They're like 20 minutes, what San Carlos is. So Ave Maria is small. Carl, good lunch. Yeah? They played in Miami. We had a good lunch.
Probably, a lot of them do because the Southwest Florida League.
Yeah?
Yeah, like, they don't even have, like their, sports stuff are reported on paper and then it's not organized.
Yeah, I know.
You're distracted every time they're watching you.
It's really bad, but there's a lot of talent.
They weren't listening. They got time there yesterday.
Really?
But I think you can't put people,
I don't think.
like those people.
Hey.
Keep going.
I grew up there early. They